The astrology of March 2025 looks a little messy, and one thing the Virgo Lunar Eclipse detests is a mess. Hi all, my name's Haley Comet, and welcome to my Cosmic Corner of the Internet, where we discuss all things astrology, and today, all things Virgo Lunar Eclipse March 2025 and you. What contemplations, revelations, and culminations are surfacing with this full moon eclipse in Virgo around what you are being asked to release. This is a lunar eclipse on the South Node, and we will break down all of the nuances of what those pieces mean. But what I want to share here is that this is an eclipse that is around an aha of what needs to be released, what you are not taking with you on the next leg of your journey. And before you fret and you panic like, Haley Comet, what do you mean something has to be let go of? Does that mean a job? Does that mean a relationship? Not necessarily. It can be a habit, certainly with the energy of Virgo, an outdated mentality, a fixation on perfectionism with the energy of Virgo. When we think about the South Node, it is this surrender, essentially. It tends to be a very spiritual energy, and I always think of it as a vacuum. You know, it kind of like sucks things up. It has a tendency to do that, and how apropos with a Virgo lunar eclipse, with Virgo being a sign that is associated with cleanliness. You know, eclipse season is a bit like a cosmic vacuum that sucks up things from our life that are not necessary. But the thing is, we don't always see that from our human perspective. The universe knows that what it's taking away served you, right? Like that granola bar, when you ate it, it served you, but it's sucking away the crumbs. It's like you already ate the granola bar. Like it's done. Now we're just taking away the remains of it. But we don't always see it from our own perspective. We think, wait, I really like that granola bar. Don't take this granola bar away from me again. We don't see that it's really just crumbs. That the period of our life, that granola bar or whatever within your life, whatever it is, the period that it nourished you, that it supported you, that it gave you the nutrients on your journey, that period has come to a close. And we don't see it from our human perspective. We don't always see when we are clinging to something that is outdated or something that has outlived its purpose within our universe. We don't always see that from our vantage point. The universe knows it's just vacuuming up crumbs, but we can think, universe, you're being so mean. I liked that granola bar. I wasn't done eating it. And especially when we view things from this more Virgo-like mentality around, it was my plan that I was going to continue to eat the granola bar. We can get into the more earthy side of this energy around that granola bar made me feel safe. We can get into the Mercury side around, I don't understand why this granola bar, this part of my life, had to be taken away from me, right? This is wrong. Something is wrong. This is an issue. This is not how things are meant to be. We're viewing it from our own human perspective. But the universe, holding that cosmic vacuum, knows it was just crumbs. You took in all that you really needed to take in from that particular piece of your life, and now it's safe for you to let go. Even if it was not according to plan, there was a need to trust. And I know we're talking about crumbs, right? And it's like, obviously, I wouldn't be upset if something's vacuuming crumbs, but sometimes the things that we beg to keep or hold on to, or even the things that we desire. In the universe's eyes, it's like, that's just crumbs. We have a souffle coming your way, my love. You don't need to eat that granola bar anymore. And you are holding on to what we see are crumbs. You think this granola bar is good, it's all that I'm going to get. We have something way better in store. But the challenging part is, once the crumbs are vacuumed up, sometimes within that space, it can feel so uncomfortable, right? It could bring up all of the Virgo-like energy, the worry. What am I going to eat now? Or this was not according to plan, or the universe hates me. There is a need to really befriend space when we're in this process, because like I said, new chapters are initiating. We are being launched forward, right? Somewhere. But this particular eclipse is more so around the cosmic vacuuming of all of the dust and the crumbs that's carving space for what is being brought into our lives, for the souffle that's on the way, for the 3-course meal that's on the way. There's a need to not cling to crumbs at this time. And I guarantee you, if something does come to a close around eclipse season, if you do learn some particular information, if you are presented a certain hard lesson or a hard choice, there is a deeper level of significance there. And just knowing that the occurrences that happen around eclipses, they are not random. And so you can think that it was just a random freak accident that the universe vacuumed up this particular area of your life. My personal perspective on it, knowing what I know about eclipses, there's a reason around why this was sucked out of your world, why this door was closed, why the situation came to an end. And the work, it's a Virgo lunar eclipse, we got to do the work, is to trust, which typically is not the kind of work that Virgo likes to do, right? Virgo is kind of like that busybody energy in the universe around always wanting to do something or improve something or fix something. And there can be a tendency around, okay, these crumbs were released, I no longer have this granola bar to eat, rather than waiting for the universe to deliver me the souffle or the 3-course meal. I'm going to panic, I'm going to run around, I'm going to go into the cosmic vacuum chamber and get the crumbs back. Like, there actually is a nudge at this time for our work to show up in a different way. The work is actually around allowing. The work is actually around surrendering. The work is actually around letting go of your own plan, letting go of how you thought things were going to go in order to allow space for how they are. To dump out all of your expectations to be an empty vessel, like ready to drink in what the universe has in store for you, what is going to nourish you. And this is work, even though it's not like physical running around doing all the things. This is work. This is challenging to release, to surrender, to trust is the biggest word, because Virgo is an energy, it trusts its judgment. It trusts logic. It trusts what's rational. And when we talk about the universal cosmic wisdom as indicated by North Node and Pisces, it doesn't always make sense. And it's not always visible at this particular chapter in life around, oh, I see how this being removed is actually setting me up for this new timeline and my soulmate that I'm meeting in a couple of years and this new business that I'm going to start. We don't have that viewpoint. The universe does. That's why it's like, why are you begging and pleading for those crumbs back? Those were just crumbs. We've got a meal on the way. And the trusting and the work is around trusting that there is a meal on the way. Because I can tell you, what happens during eclipses, fated to unfold this way. You can like it, you can hate it. Honestly, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of this eclipse. It opposes Saturn. There's a lot that could be happening right now that's really annoying, that's really frustrating around really universe, like really? But the work is to trust, to allow the unfolding of what is meant to be, and to allow the surrendering of what is not meant to be. And so we will dive into all of the nuances of this eclipse, how it'll impact the collective. I'll show you a step-by-step tutorial around how to figure out where exactly this eclipse lands within your chart. That's the life arenas that are being spotlighted. And then we'll take it into our sign-by-sign, house-by-house analysis. What mess is being cleaned up this Virgo lunar eclipse and how it's setting you up for a brand new beginning. So the Virgo lunar eclipse will land on March 13th, March 14th. I say that just because I'm located in California, so technically for me, it exacts on March 13th, 11:55 p.m. PST. So that means many other places in the globe, it'll actually land on the 14th. But even though that's the exact time that it lands, the intensity that an eclipse tends to bring extends well beyond just the hour and the minute that it exacts. And this is a lunar eclipse in Virgo. This lands at 23 degrees Virgo. So I will show you where you can find where 23 degrees Virgo lands in your chart, and thus the life arena that is being kicked up with this eclipse. So whenever we talk about eclipses, there's a couple of different ingredients that we add to make this celestial souffle, in a sense. We first need to consider if it's a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse. This is a lunar eclipse. That's a full moon eclipse. Lunar eclipses are a bit more personal. Typically, it's like culminations, revelations that come up within our life, and they tend to be more emotional. It tends to be charged with a depth of feeling. And of course, as goes with regular full moons as well, it brings things to light. the moon, which at many other points in the cycle was shrouded in darkness, now it is at maximum illumination. It has no place to hide. The sun is illuminating all that before could have been a little bit secretive or in the dark. And so that's why I reference this eclipse as an aha, right? It's just something that you see clearly that maybe at other points in your life you did not see as clearly, or a certain event that makes this arena of your life undeniable, or how it's not serving you undeniable, or a natural conclusion to something that has been unfolding within your world. There could be a culmination energy when we talk about a full moon, just an acknowledgement around we're at the end of the road here, right? The granola bar has been consumed. And sometimes we acknowledge that. We're like, okay, this chapter of my life is done. And sometimes we don't. Sometimes from our vantage point, it looks like we still have 3/4 of the granola bar to eat, but the universe snatches it away from us. And we're like, hello, I was hungry. Like, what on earth? But it is important to know that the things that are coming to a close at this time, at least in the universe's eyes, not always from our eyes, but in the universe's eyes, that is not serving us, at least with the next essentially leg of the journey, the next chapter of our own soul development, our own growth. And that is even more emphasized because this is a full moon on the South Node, which, as I noted earlier, is around release, surrender, and letting go. The South Node is actually a very, very spiritual point. So there is an energy around surrendering attachment, especially as it relates to Virgo-like themes. The first dynamic of that I want to bring forward is this attachment to a plan, right? Virgo is a sign that very much likes a plan. It likes order, it likes structure, and it likes control. If we really distill Virgo energy, it likes to feel in control. And you know what doesn't make us feel in control? When events transpire, our granola bar gets snatched, something in our life fades away, something comes to a close, it can make us feel very out of control. And sometimes we respond to that by fighting, by forcing, by overworking, by feeling like it's all in our own hands. And I say this not in a disempowering way, but when we talk about eclipses, my love, it's bigger than you. It's bigger than you. I know we like to have that illusion of control. We are creators in our own experience. We do have control over a lot, but it's important to know that we don't have control over everything. And the more that we can let things leave in our life that want to leave with grace and gratitude at this time, the better. Do not take what is ebbing out of your life as an invitation to run after it, to do more. Feel like you need to go above and beyond to fix it. Again, I'm not saying that you need to outsource the ability for you to show up and improve your circumstances, but there's an ask really with North Node and Pisces to really flow with what is rather than forcing what is not. And that may not have been in your plans. When we make a plan, God laughs. Very North Node and Pisces sentiment. And by the way, I'll link the North Node and Pisces video below so you can get caught up on that, because this does pull in the ongoing story of North Node and Pisces and give us more complexity to the story that's been underway truly since September 2024, the first time that we had an eclipse in this axis. But there's a need to let go of our attachment to the plan, because what we could have been fixated on, the granola bar that we wanted to eat, would potentially be settling in the universe's eyes. It's like, we have something way better in store for you, beyond your plan. Things that are so good you wouldn't even know to ask for them or to work for them. It's kind of like that energy when you're walking somewhere and you're running late, right? You're like running in your own head. Maybe you're even beating yourself up. We'll talk about criticism in a moment with the Virgo energy. Maybe you're like, how could you be late? How could you be late? But you're so focused. I need to get where it is that I'm going. I need to walk there. I need to strive to be as not late as possible. And you're so laser focused on your plan that you're not paying attention to the bus that's right there that could take you where it is that you need to go at a faster rate. Or isn't that a friend of yours who's also in your class who you could hitch a ride with? Or you just walked by, those electric scooters. Like, sometimes the universe wants us to either get to the same destination as ours or a different destination, and sends us ways to get there in a bit more of a seamless fashion. But sometimes we're so insistent around doing things our way, the hard way, that we don't pay attention to the scooters and the friend and the bus. We're just like, gotta get there, because we're just kind of lost in our own worlds and our own idea of what we plan for it to be. I plan to walk to class, and so that's what I'm going to do, even though I'm running late, right? Even though I'm running late. And we're so lost in that we're not paying attention to the ways that the universe is trying to work with us. When we let go of that plan, when we even allow ourselves to be open around, okay, I thought I was going to retire with this job. Clearly, this is not a fit any longer. Okay, show me what's next, universe, or show me how good it gets, universe. Like, I see that this is deviating from my plan. I know that things are always unfolding in your plan. Let me stay open. Let me stay aware. And there's a degree of humility that is integrated with that, which, to be quite honest with you, the Virgo lunar eclipse could feel a little challenged by, because Virgo as an archetype, it is associated with perfectionism. And to be perfect means you always have all of the answers and you always know what to do. And there is a need during this eclipse to release any sort of attachment to needing to be perfect in order to be human. Because with this lunar eclipse opposing Saturn, there feels to be this unpleasant recognition around this eclipse, especially for the perfectionists, around, I've tried to be perfect enough, I've tried to do good enough, I've tried to do it all and be it all and fix it and improve and dial in, and it's still not enough. It's still not enough. And this might be in accordance to your own standards or other individuals. If you are someone who holds yourself to a standard of perfection where it's like, okay, as soon as I lose X amount of weight, as soon as I get the nose job, as soon as I fix my grades, as soon as I improve this particular habit, then I'll feel good enough. You know, the archetype of Virgo is deeply woven with these themes of shame and guilt, as though being who it is that you are authentically and organically is something to feel shameful about. And again, I'm not speaking to Virgo placements necessarily, but that's why the sign is associated with improvement, because there sometimes is this energy embodied with Virgo energy around, I'm not good enough, I need to improve. And that can bring us shame around the ways that we are, feeling like we always need to be better at something or more perfect at something or improved at something, which sends us on this loop. And it's interesting because the other point of the sky, the north node, that's the part of the sky that's tied with these themes of consumption and hunger and it being never ending. And it feels like with Virgo on the south node, there is this energy around actually releasing this attachment to, as soon as I'm perfect enough here, as soon as I do this, then I'll feel satisfied. There's just this acknowledgement, it feels like a very spiritual acknowledgement around, I'll never be satisfied, because there's always something that could be more perfect. There's always something that could be fixed. And it's going to send me on this endless quest, feeling that satisfaction or perfection is waiting for me in the next step. And it won't be. It never will. You know, Virgo is very detail oriented. There's always small facets of things that can be improved. And it sends us on a loop around never feeling good enough, feeling like the next thing and the next thing finally will feel good enough or worthy enough or whatever the story is. And I'm cracking up. If you guys watch my weekly horoscope series, Magic Monday, you know that it's part of my process, that a lot of times the things that transpire as I'm filming are in some ways capturing the energy of what it is that I'm talking about. And if you can hear it, you'll hear that within the hallway of the apartment building that I live in, they are vacuuming. And today's not typically the day that they vacuum. I very much structure my filming schedule around them vacuuming, but I gotta laugh because I was just talking about vacuuming, and of course they're vacuuming today. And again, this was not part of my plan, but I need to trust it's part of the universe's plan, right? And sometimes that we hear it with gritted teeth and clenched fists because it's like, why? Because again, from my own human vantage point, this is annoying. I structured my schedule to ensure that I could at least try. I live somewhere that's kind of noisy, but I try my best to accommodate for the vacuum schedule and the garbage trucks that go outside. Like, you can try to do it all and make your plan as perfect as possible, but sometimes the vacuuming individuals will come on a day that they're not scheduled to, and it's super annoying. You might have situations within your life, this eclipse season and beyond, where it's like, this is so annoying. I worked so hard to avoid this very thing happening. I planned around this very thing happening. I did all of these steps in order to ensure that this would happen, and now it didn't. Like, there's uncomfortable, unpleasant realities of life. Like when we think about Virgo energy, it's around maintenance and fixing and improving all of the small details. And it's like things in life are annoying. They are frustrating. But the hardest part is being in the midst of it and just trusting that the universe, God, has a reason around why things are unfolding in the ways that they are unfolding at this particular moment in time. Again, sometimes it shows up in big ways, sometimes it shows up in small ways around them vacuuming right outside of my apartment. Hopefully that is not so bothersome for you, but it really just reinforces, we make a plan and God laughs. And sometimes we get the meaning around, oh, I see why I had to film this day rather than this day, or oh, I see why I'm actually going to really benefit from the quiet on the days that these individuals typically come by. Sometimes we see that. Sometimes it's just like random, inconsequential, like why on earth did this have to be the soundtrack to my Virgo lunar eclipse? Who knows? And the annoyances of life, the frustrations, the deviations of the plan, that is in forever circumstance. It's part of being a human being, is dealing with these annoying realities of life. You do not need to like your fate, but you must love your fate. Think of something perfect. Nature is perfect. Every season is perfect for what it is, and it helps lead to the next season for that particular organism. It even supports other organisms and their timing. Like, it's all perfect in the bigger scheme of things. But if you didn't know in the bigger scheme of things, if you were just in the season of fall, and you were the tree and you were dropping off your leaves, you would panic. You'd be like, oh no. You'd be like trying to retrieve those granola bar crumbs, right? Like trying to grab something that have outlived their purpose in this season of your life. You would panic in the shedding of the leaves. You would feel like something's wrong. You would look down at all the leaves on the ground and be like, gosh, what a mess, what a mess, what a mess. I need to clean them up. But if we acknowledge the seasons, we see that that leads us to the winter, which leads us to spring, and that the leaves regrow. Like everything has its timing. Everything has its seasons. It's important not to view it so just stuck in the particular moment of it in order to take in the bigger story that's playing out here, the seasons and the rhythms, which is hard when it comes to our lives because we go through seasons as well. We go through our own personal winters, and sometimes it's hard to have faith that our leaves will regrow, that new beginnings are ahead. It could be challenging to move towards that. But believe in the power of renewal. Believe in the power of cycles. Trust that from this higher perspective, everything is unfolding as it's meant to. It might be scary. It might be a little cold. You might miss your leaves, but everything is happening for a reason. Everything feeds and fortifies the next season and the next chapter. And we don't always get that perspective when we're in it. But I feel for some, the adversary isn't yourself, it's other people. It's recognizing that you will constantly be criticized for whatever it is that you do. And that's why this full moon feels like surrender. And not in a disempowering way, like not around like giving up altogether, but just around this acknowledgement around, I've tried to fix myself and do what you told me and adjust to your criticism, and it's still not enough. This full moon opposes Saturn. I've tried to do this. You told me I was to this. I've tried to do this and you told me I was to that. You'll never be satisfied with me. When it comes to criticism, people are always going to have something to say. They're always going to have something to say. You'll be too peppy for one person and too down for the next. You'll be too pretty for this person and not pretty enough for the next. You will constantly never feel to be enough when you view things through other person's framework, and more insidiously when you adjust yourself to meet the framework's expectations and standards of others. Again, I am a believer in constructive criticism. I am not saying we do not have things to improve or to refine on, but I feel for some who have been adjusting and molding and perfecting something in order to meet someone else's standards, there could be an acknowledgement around this lunation, maybe a particularly revealing conversation or comment or something like this that just makes you realize, wow, I've went above and beyond to be more this, to be less this, and there's still criticism. I'm still not good enough. I'm still not perfect, whatever the story is. You need to set your own standards because you will constantly be told you're too this, you're too that, you're too much, you're too little, what have you, and it will make you lose the essence of who the divine designed you to be, trying to fit everybody else's standards. because they're viewing it from their own birth chart and who it is that they were designed to be. Like, we're not all the same. But sometimes with the shadow side of Virgo energy, we can take the criticism or even the fear of the criticism or not wanting to make a mistake out of fear of what people say, make us dilute our own authenticity, trying to just come across as flawless, as put together as possible, until you are truly a shell of yourself and really the authenticity that the divine crafted you to be. There is no other you. That is your power. Because if we strive to speak in a way that absolutely everybody resonates with, if we strive to do our work in a way that absolutely everybody approves of, if we strive to adjust our health standards in order to meet the beauty standard that everybody else has, we will lose the messiness of the magic of what the divine crafted us to be. Our magic is messy to a certain degree. It's not for everybody. You will dilute your magic trying to make it perfect and put together and orderly and responsive to everybody else's criticism. Again, criticism is also a path that is never ending. Same as perfectionism around you try to fix this and then they say this. People always have something to say. And I feel that some people are reaching a breaking point around this lunar eclipse, around acknowledging that. And it can be freeing. It can be so freeing to acknowledge that people are always going to have something to say to you, that there's always something that could be perfected and improved. And it feels like this lunar eclipse is almost this just allowance around, I'm not perfect, and that's okay. But I am me. As I was noting earlier, a lot of times a divination strategy is what happens either shortly before recording or while recording, sometimes has a certain message that's important to communicate. And this is from my own vantage point based on what it is that I do. So it's going to differ person to person, but it was just fascinating. I recently posted a video. I went onto the YouTube Studio app and it just shows you the 3 most recent comments. And I happened to check right before hopping on, and it was hysterical how they all lined up because it was on the Venus retrograde video. And the first one was like, you didn't talk enough about people who are in relationships. And the next one was like, you didn't talk enough about people who are single. And the third one was like, you talk too much about relationships. You didn't talk about A, B, and C. I was like, oh my gosh, what did I talk about? Like, I feel like I was talking for a long time and allegedly I didn't talk about anything enough to anybody else's liking. And do not misunderstand me when I say this. I'm always open to constructive criticism, things such as this, but it really was such a great example for me, and maybe for all of us, honestly, that you really can't please everyone. People will always say you're doing this too much, you're not doing enough this, because people view it from their own viewpoints and their own experiences. You know, people who are single wanted to hear about the single person experience. People who are in relationships wanted to hear about the coupled person experience. People who are not interested in relationships aren't particularly interested in that. And again, this is absolutely just a component of what it is that I do. I'm not complaining at all. If you're going to put yourself on the internet, you're opening yourself up for criticism. There's a lot on my channel that I could be doing better. There's a lot that I could be doing better as a human being. Okay. It was freeing for me to see that, just because I was like, okay, I'm not the astrologer for everyone. And that kind of frees me to just be the astrologer that I am, to know that I'm going to be to this for some people. I know some people click on my videos and they're like, this girl's energy is like all over the place, right? Or I talk too much about this particular arena of my life that's just very relevant in terms of like my own life experiences, things such as this. And it's so freeing for me to like flow with what is, with all this Piscean energy, rather than ensuring that the messages that I deliver are perfect, like with the energy of Virgo, that I hit all of the points and express everything perfectly and am the astrologer for everybody, so that nobody has anything to criticize me for. Because I know when I allow those voices or criticism to get in my head, again, I'll take the constructive pieces. I'm always striving to do better here on my channel, and everybody has a valid point. I'm not taking that away from anyone, but I'm saying the more that I get in my own head around, well, they said you were to this. They said you're using hand gestures too much here. They said you're talking too much about this. They said that you're to this, you're to that. The more that I allow those voices in my head, the more I get away from just the way that divine flows through me. Like, my favorite videos here on my channel is when I'm just doing my thing, when I'm just flowing with what is moving through me. That's when I feel the closest to God, is when I'm channeling, and I quite literally cannot channel if I have certain critical voices within my head. Sometimes even just my own, around, oh God, people are going to say you're so annoying, or you're so this, or you're so that. It quite literally stops the flow of insights and information that's moving through me when I think, okay, try again, just be a little bit more calm, try to come off as less this. It quite literally takes away the flow of just what is moving through me. And again, what is moving through me may not align for every single soul on this planet, but I know I'm going to dilute my own essence if I try, if I allow myself to listen to the voices of all of the ways that I'm not good enough, or I could be doing better, or I'm not talking about certain things, or I'm talking about certain things too much. That's just a lot of voices. That's a lot of criticism to have in your head. And again, this may not relate exactly to your experience, but it's just important that you stay true to what is flowing through you, to who it is that you are. And it helps you not take it personally, right? Just taking the constructive criticism, if it supports you in being more what you were built to do. Again, we'll have a spiritual calling or something that we feel called towards or pulled towards, but we do have to show up for it. We do have to refine our craft. We do have to practice, right? All of those pieces are part of it. It's not saying that this amazing opera career will just land on our lap just because we were given a good voice. We do need to show up for it. And to show up for it means integrating feedback, but the encouragement is not to get lost in that, because there's always elements of you to criticize. There's always elements that could get feedback, and you don't want to dilute from your own essence. Like if you were put on this planet to be an opera singer and you get all these reviews within the paper saying that your voice would be better suited to go sing jazz, don't lose out on that flow state that you feel as you are singing opera, wanting to be perfect enough for the critic's perspective or for the reviewer's perspective. You were put on this planet to sing opera. And you know, when people criticize you and critique you, which they are well in their right to do, right? They are doing so from their own vantage point, from their own chart, from their own calling. We're all different. We're all on different paths. And I think North Node in Pisces is about acknowledging that and not forcing somebody else to show up in how you expect them to show up, as well as not being attached to people showing up within a particular way, or even yourself showing up within a particular way. It's really this celestial call to let it be. Truly, let it be. When it comes to those moments of divinity that we experience, those moments of transcendence, the moment that we feel when we hit that particular note in opera and we have chills all over our body because we feel so close with the divine in that particular moment, us tapping into that invites other people to meet us at that vibration, the ones who are meant to, right? Some people will hear you sing that note in opera and be like, I need to go to a jazz concert, right? Because that's their path. But there will be some people where, because you are living in alignment with your calling and you are in this state of flow, you also transmit that ethereal energy to others, maybe even inspire others. And we all have different ways that we get to that. You may get to that via a craft. You play music and you lose yourself within it. You volunteer and you feel so connected to something bigger than yourself. You hike for hours and you feel close to God. We all have different ways that we find those transcendent moments, even in the mundane elements of this life. You know, the logistics, the Monday mornings, the drives to work, the spills, the taxes, the insurance, just all of the annoying elements of life. It's all worth it for those moments of transcendence and divinity that we experience in love and in creation and in connection. And anything that helps you plug into that vibration also can inspire other people to meet you there as well. And it won't be for everybody. Your opera singing voice will not be for everybody in the auditorium, but the more that you refine the authentic call from the cosmos, the more you will deeply inspire and influence the people that you are meant to, and not trying to make puzzle pieces fit where they don't fit. You weren't meant to be a jazz singer, right? That might be perfect for somebody else. That's not perfect for you. So it's just following the nudges from spirit around where it is that you are guided and led and inspired, because that is a certain way to also guide and lead and inspire others as well. And it's fascinating because it doesn't even show up within the same medium. Like sometimes when you go to a concert, you're so inspired from the beauty and all of the depth of feeling. Maybe you're not a musician, but you can take that inspiration and pour it into your passion project, through your nonprofit. We all have different ways of channeling or tapping into God or divinity. And the invitation with North Node Pisces is follow your calling, follow where it is that you find that bliss. Not everybody will get it, but the right ones will get it and feel you on it. And even if you refine your craft and you're at the top of the game and you're singing in a way that feels real and true to you and you feel connected to God, there still may be reviews that come out in the paper that say A, B, or C. Take with you the constructive parts, but also acknowledge you will not be the opera singer for everyone. Because when we dilute our magic, right? Because like I said, our magic is messy. Our magic is messy. Sometimes our art is a little too bold for some people's taste. Sometimes our delivery is a little too intense for some people's taste. Sometimes our writing is a little too shocking for some people's taste, right? You're not for everyone. God didn't design you to be for everyone. The universe did not design you to be for everyone, and you will be for no one if you run around trying to be perfect or for everybody. The song of your soul will be true and real, and you may not be the opera singer for everyone. Luckily, we're all designed so beautifully. There's different operas that people can go to. Like, you don't want to lose yourself and really lose your calling trying to be the opera singer for everyone or trying to be perfect and losing yourself within that chase for perfectionism. There is an energy around this lunar eclipse around giving up, and I know that feels quite discouraging, but the ruler is Mercury in Aries, which feels like feeling a little fed up by something around I tried and I tried and I dialed in and I dialed in and it still wasn't enough. Mercury does align with Venus, who is retrograde by this point, so that also could be brought up. So you may want to check out the Venus retrograde all signs forecast, because there may be elements of that story involved in this lunation altogether. But even outside of criticism, whether it's self-criticism, other people's criticism, there's also a part of this eclipse around letting go of hustling in a certain essence. And like I said, your calling will require you to show up, to gain mastery, to dial into the details, to be the best that you can be. God can give you the beautiful singing voice. It cannot give you the skill and the muscle to sing in that regard. That's your job. Let the universe do its work. It will provide you the beautiful talent of your singing voice. It will bring you into serendipitous alignment with the person who will eventually be your opera coach. Like, the universe has its work, right? And its role in constructing and dialing in our fate. But we have ours. We have to show up for our craft. We have to refine. We have to practice. But there is an energy with this lunar eclipse in Virgo on the South Node around releasing hustling. If you are somebody who exists in a framework around always doing, always seeing yourself as so busy, when we identify ourselves as something, that could be a springboard or that could be a prison. And you have to be mindful how it is that you identify yourself, especially with the ruling planet of this eclipse answering to Mercury, who's in Aries. You have to be intentional how you see yourself. If you see yourself as someone who is a workaholic, right, and that you will not get what you want unless you work really hard and you hustle and you sacrifice day in and day out. If you see yourself as someone who's very, very busy, what you see yourself as persists, right? If you see yourself as busy, your reality is going to reflect that concept that you hold within your mind's eye. You will always feel busy. You will always feel like you're doing things, and sometimes even feel like a hamster on a wheel, like you're moving a lot, but I'm busy, I'm tired, right? But I don't feel like I'm moving forward or really making any progress within my world. And some people could just be feeling fed up around, I work so hard, and like, for what? Just with the way that the economy is set up, I just feel so frustrated. I feel like I still can't make ends meet. It's like, as soon as I get to this income level, now everything else is more expensive. Like, there just could be this energy around recognizing that our hustling or our chasing isn't taking us in the directions that we want it to go. And there is an acknowledgement around wanting to get off the hamster wheel, wanting to gain or get some sort of perspective. And by that, I'm not saying to literally, quit your job or stop showing up for your craft or what have you, but there is an ask, am I working harder or am I working smarter? Because like I said in my earlier example, we could be like running late and rushing and running to get to class, like so in our own world, that we're not seeing that there could be easier ways of getting to where it is that we're going around, oh, there's a bus, or oh, there's a friend, or oh, there's this. Sometimes when we are so in this particular cycle, we reject opportunities that we could actually accomplish something simpler with a bit more ease, because this was the plan. This was what I thought I was going to do. This was how I thought I was going to get to class. And I'm a fit person, so I can run to class, right? Not seeing that there's other avenues that the universe could be sending us to help us in some regard. You know, if you see yourself as someone who's always busy and always in a rush, those circumstances will repeat. And there's an interesting opportunity around this eclipse, around where it is that we can shift the perspective, even where it is that we can conjure more time for ourselves. Because sometimes being in that very busy, frantic, frazzled energy, it's actually not so productive, but we could feel like we're always running late, always going to the next thing. There's an invitation around, where can I actually make time slow down? Where can I be the magician of my own reality and like creating and conjuring more time? And I know I sound insane, especially when we view this from a Virgo perspective around, yeah, there's only 24 hours in a day, but time is something that's constantly shifting. You know how when you're in an experience you really want to be in, it feels like time flies, or when you're in that final hour at work, it feels like the clock is ticking by. Time is something that can be manipulated, and sometimes if we're always in that pace around always being busy or always rushing to get to the next thing, we are perpetuating that pace and that circumstance. And sometimes when we take an invitation around, let me slow down. And if you don't believe me that time is something to be manipulated, time will stretch to fit into the window that you allow it. So if you need to write a paper, if you need to get a project done at work, and you allot 6 hours, or you allot 2 hours, likely you will take the entirety of the 6 hours and the entirety of the 2 hours, because we have set into our mind, this is the amount of time that it's going to take, and then we fill it. Either we like procrastinate with a lot of those hours within the 6 hour example, or within the 2 hour, because it's a smaller window, we're really focused and we get it done. Like, time contorts and stretches and manipulates in order to fit the window that we set a lot of times. And when we talk about Pisces energy, it's very much manipulating the circumstances of this physical world using the spiritual one. So I would even encourage, if you're someone who's always busy, who's always frazzled, who's always doing, there's an invitation around this eclipse around, what would it look like to shed that identity? Rather than being seen as someone who's, oh, they're so busy or they're so stressed or what have you, what would it look like to be still the successful, business person that I am, still the mom that I am, still the dad that I am, still the creative that I am? What would it look like to still have the success that I have, but to allow that to unfold in a way that's more seamless, in a way that's more effortless? Virgo energy could be us efforting a lot, hustling and forcing. And there is a way, especially when it comes to meeting our fate or meeting something that is destined or meant for us. There is a way that flows naturally. It unfolds seamlessly. It's not to say it won't challenge you, but when you're in flow with the divine, there is this energy around getting lost in what it is that you're doing and feeling, signs and synchronicities support you on the path, and things kind of magically coming into alignment even more beautifully than you could have hustled and forced them to be. There is an ask during this time to see where it is that you can take inspired action. When you feel a nudge around, oh, I should take my florist flyers to, these local establishments. Like, I just feel inspired to do that. That might be more ultimately successful rather than having a particular plan around, okay, I'm going to promote my florist company in these particular ways and have it very orderly. Sometimes when we release how we thought that things should be, we allow ourselves to flow into what is, which oftentimes can be a more effortless unfolding of our destiny, or what it is that we are made for, or what it is that we are meant for. So maybe part of this eclipse is releasing being a workaholic, right? Maybe you're someone where you're always doing, right? Hustling. And maybe this eclipse is around, what if there's a different way to show up? And that can be humbling, right? Especially if we like being seen as someone who's always busy. Because sometimes we can equate within our mind, being busy means being sought after, which means being valued, which means being helpful or good at my craft or what have you. It's important what sort of stories you have within your mind around how you define success in whichever parameter. It doesn't need to literally have to do with work. It's just labor. Themes could be in the air with this eclipse landing in the sign Virgo, but really being intentional around how it is that you define success. Because if you see being successful means having my calendar fully booked up. You will live a life with your calendar fully booked up. Does that work for you? And some people like always being busy, always being on the go, always being frazzled and frantic. But if you're not, this eclipse could be a releasing of needing to be that way or even be seen in that way. Or maybe we do that in order to prove to ourselves that we are perfect enough or good enough. And Virgo is a sign that's associated with service. And so there also could be this energy around reaching a bit of burnout as it relates to being helpful. Like I said, there is an energy around feeling a little fed up around this eclipse, around when I went above and beyond for these patients, at my hospital, and still they're mean to me or what have you. Like there could be certain energies like that make you feel a bit underappreciated, right? Unseen for how hard and how tirelessly you work for something around, I do all of this and what do I get in return, right? I feel like I'm criticized and talked down to or not good enough or what have you. There could be themes around where it is that you are of service, whether it's at work or maybe you're taking care of someone or something like this. And there could be a little bit of like caretaker burnout or being of service burnout in a sense with the opposition to Saturn, just feeling like, and it's still not enough. It's still not enough. And my invitation for you would be, whatever it is that you do for work, however it is that you are of service, it's important to view things from a higher perspective, especially when it's eclipse season. Firstly, I want to say that during eclipse season, everybody is moving through their own stuff, right? You need to keep in mind everybody's in their own world. Of course, we interact with one another, we co-create together, we experience life together, but everybody's in their own bubble of their own fate and their own lessons and their own challenges and their own pain and their own suffering. And eclipse season tends to bring a lot of that up to the surface. It tends to be a very energetically fraught time. It can feel very intense. There can be a lot of beginnings and endings that are showing up in your world and in other people's worlds. And maybe your eclipse season isn't so dramatic. Maybe your eclipse story is a little bit more subtle. Of course, we'll get into our all sign eclipse forecast, but it's going to be important to have grace that other people might be moving through some major themes within their life. And sometimes people will take that out on you, whether it's, patients at your job or customers at your job or even loved ones within your life, right? Criticizing you because they feel like that gives them a sense of power within their own lives, right? That's a funny thing about Virgo energy. And I can say this because I'm a Virgo moon and rising myself, is that Virgo's always the one who's giving other people advice and telling other people how to fix their stuff. Meanwhile, sometimes their life is a mess and they're like, well, we don't talk about that. We're talking about you right now. Like Virgo could be that energy around wanting to help clean up the messes in other people's lives in order to avoid the messes within their own to a certain way. So there also just could be an invitation to view things from a higher perspective around acknowledging that people are moving through their own cycles and rhythms within their life, and that may result in them criticizing you for certain things or responding to you in certain ways or reacting to you in certain ways. Again, it's not validating or excusing how it is that they're treating you, but there is an ask, especially at this time, for empathy with North Node and Pisces around other people and what it is that they're moving through. But it's also knowing, as you show up for your work, and maybe it's not, patients who are complaining about your nursing or what have you. Maybe it's just this energy around feeling unsatisfied by your work or feeling, more drained for your work, not feeling like your labor is being properly compensated or something like this. Venus is retrograde at the same time of this eclipse. There's also a need to view that from a broader perspective around, I'm not just, a cashier at a grocery store. I'm helping people eat and nourish their bodies. Or I'm not just, a nurse at this hospital. I am supporting people's healing. Like coming back to the bigger picture of it, because the small mechanics of work, there's a lot of annoyances. There's a lot of logistics. There's a lot of things that go wrong. Remember the bigger picture of what it is that your job does, like you as a person, what it is that your job does, what it is that your company does. And if you work for a company that you find rather corrupt or something like this, and you're like, Haley, Comet, I don't want to dial into the big picture of it. Dial into the bigger picture of how it is that it's serving you. There is a tinge with this eclipse around certain spiritual lessons and harsh lessons with the opposition to Saturn. There could be certain things that we are learning at work or within our service that's not pleasant, but it's helping us become the soul that we were meant to be. Maybe this job as a nurse is helping us learn patience. Maybe this job as a cashier is helping us build our rapport in chatting with different shoppers that we're going to pull in the business that we start in a couple years. Like, it's staying focused around bigger picture, around either what your service is doing, like to a literal level. I am helping this person eat. I am helping this person with their healing. I am showing up for this particular mission, or how it's serving you and your life and your spiritual journey at that. And if you watch my videos, particularly my weekly horoscope videos, it's called Magic Monday. I take you through every single week of astrology. But if you watch that, you know that I love to talk through astrology symbolically. I think sometimes it can communicate nuances that not always all of the literal mechanics of the energetics can. And when tapping into the energy of this lunar eclipse in Virgo on the South Node, it feels like a diagnosis from the doctor that you cannot eat a particular food. We'll say that gluten has been causing a lot of the symptoms that you've been experiencing. Unpleasant news to receive, right? Like, this lunar eclipse opposes Saturn. There's a little bit of like so annoying, right? Now I'm restricted. Saturn energy could be that restricted energy. I can't eat gluten anymore. This sucks. And I have to let go of this, right? With the eclipse on the South Node. And it's unpleasant, right? There could be something that we are facing at this time, a problem that we are facing within our lives that's unpleasant to acknowledge, but it's also very helpful in helping us move forward, right? Around finally, I found the root to my problems. You know, when we talk about Virgo energy, sometimes we talk about problems and things like this. So there could be an energy of a certain problem reaching a culmination. And again, this will vary based on the house that it lands in for you. It's not necessarily going to be medical or health related for everybody, although Virgo is on alignment with these themes. There could be an acknowledgement around something that you need to let go of that is for the greater good. Like, it does not do us any good to just ignore that we're having these particular symptoms and not knowing what foods are causing them to flare up. Like, there is power that comes with acknowledging a problem, or at least being able to name it in some regard. Again, not always pleasant to acknowledge, oh, I can't eat gluten any longer, but that paves your pathway forward. What the universe is taking out of your life, or sucking out of your life, the cosmic vacuum side of things, is paving a new beginning forward. Again, this is an eclipse on the full moon, not the new moon. So it's not that the new beginning is showing up right away, but truly this is something that has outlived your purpose within your world. You don't have to like it. You might love bread and be sad to have it go, but it's worth it to feel your best and feel very dialed in with your own health and well-being. And maybe making that change brings you more energy and enthusiasm to bring in a couple of other aspects that this full moon eclipse is making. This lunar eclipse sextiles Mars in Cancer and trines Uranus. So there is this energy around, yes, we're having to potentially confront something unpleasant. Something comes out that's a bit of a a bit annoying, right? There could be something that we're having to let go of, or something that's letting go of us, right? So we'll talk about being eclipsed in a moment. But I do see that not only is the problem being acknowledged, but the power to solve the problem is also coming into focus. Because again, I'm not saying we need to take an utterly passive approach to this eclipse. The universe can give us the nudges to go to the doctor's office and get the diagnosis of our gluten sensitivity. It cannot make us cut out gluten. Again, there's the universe's work and there's our work. And I see that there could be an energy around feeling inspired or motivated around your work, right? How it is that you're going to fix or improve this problem that can be revealed, and potentially even acknowledging the spiritual dimension to the problem, right? With North Node Pisces. Because you could be annoyed on a soul level around, why did I need to come to this planet and have this experience of being resistant to gluten? Like, why did I decide this? But maybe there's something that you're learning from this experience. Maybe you learn just how much discipline you have, that you're able to cut it out. Maybe this launches you on this whole health journey. Maybe you start a gluten-free cooking show and you get really into this. Like, you don't know where the road is going to take you. And sometimes the most aligned, powerful roads start with some sort of problem or something that is not pleasant to deal with or to bear, but you don't know where it's going to take you. And I just see there's an energy, well, yes, there's a feeling of potentially heaviness or restriction or annoyance is the main dynamic I'm tapping into with this eclipse. I do see with that sextile to Mars, trine to Uranus, we are recognizing our work in it around, okay, universe, I see you, no more gluten, and now my work is to, change my diet in some way. Maybe this will encourage me to start moving my body in new ways now that I feel better. Something like this could be playing out. And I do want to speak to this idea of being eclipsed, because this is a time to really let the universe do its work while you do your work. And sometimes it could be hard to tell what's my work, what's the universe's work, because around eclipses, there tends to be this now or never feeling in the air where a lot of people are like, I need to move, I need to get a divorce, I need to change jobs, I need to change my whole life. There tends to be this electricity sizzling in the air around eclipses. It's almost like our energy and our emotions are dialed up even more so. That tends to be the energy around eclipses, and sometimes we feel like we need to change everything right now. Or with the energy of Virgo, like everything is wrong right now. Everything is imperfect. There's so many messes within my life. This could not possibly be where it is that I'm meant to be. I feel like in the overall symphony of my life, there's some notes that are out of tune. Like we can feel like everything's wrong. And it's not to say that everything is completely, love and light and everything is completely seamless, because there's problems, there's issues, there's annoyances, there's imperfections. All of these things show up on a spectrum. Some of these things will be very minor for some. Some of you could be dealing with some really major setbacks. And it's not saying that all of this is pleasant to deal with, not at all. But when it comes to eclipses, we tend to feel like it's all on our shoulders to fix our whole life at that particular moment around, I'm unhappy, so I need to move, I need to change jobs, I need to do all of these things. Like I said, sometimes the energy of Virgo, we can overly busy ourselves around, gosh, this was taken away, so now I need to run around and change my entire reality in an effort to fix my life, when the universe is trying to guide you down the stream of where it wants you to go, right? Or what's meant for you. The path of least resistance is really the energy of North Node Pisces, because sometimes when things are frustrating and annoying, we want to force a particular path, even if there's resistance. We'll force a move, we'll force a divorce, force a job change right then and there. It's not to say that's not what we're being guided towards, but sometimes with eclipse season, we can feel like if it doesn't happen now, that it'll never happen. And while this is not a time to cling, as we noted in the beginning, if something is leaving your life, let it leave, knowing that this is not the most clear-headed time to be making major decisions for yourself. Again, if there is a major decision to be made during this time, you will know. There will be absolutely no other option for you. You will reach the end of your rope. It will be abundantly clear to you. You will not have any doubt in your mind. And again, sometimes that decision's made for you. That door literally closes. We lose a job. We get broken up with. A financial opportunity that we thought was going to come into fruition falls away. Sometimes the universe makes a decision for us, right? Sometimes we do the walking away, right? We make the decision for ourselves, but you will know. You will know. Well, truly eclipses make it so that there's truly feels like there's no other option but to make this change. If you're still not sure about it, if you feel like you're more so running away from something that you don't like or a problem that you have more so than you're running towards what feels soulfully aligned, I would just let the eclipse dust settle. Right? Let the eclipse dust settle, let the cosmic vacuum suck up what it needs to. Things will be clear in time. I do want to note that Venus retrograde is occurring at the same time of this lunar eclipse. The ruler of this lunar eclipse is aligned with that Venus retrograde. Retrogrades are typically a time around reviewing. And again, if you do have a problem in your life or something that does feel unsatisfactory, see where it's teaching you. See what you're learning from it, especially in a spiritual way. Truly, we came here to learn lessons and to grow. I know a lot of us, myself included, sometimes get into the energy where we're like, no more lessons, universe. No more character development, right? But that's why we came here, is to grow and to evolve and to do our work in both a physical sense, right? Showing up for our tasks and our habits and our rituals that help us be our best or refine our God-given talents and abilities, but also doing our spiritual work, right? With us being in Pisces season, North Node in Pisces. That means working the muscle of compassion, working the muscle of forgiveness, working the muscle of patience. There's also a nudge to ensure that you are meditating, practicing mindfulness, things like this that help us get to that space of peace, even when things feel chaotic all around. Again, the energy of Virgo, sometimes we can get swept away around everything's a mess and I need to clean it up. And the ask with North Node Pisces is to stop, drop, and meditate, right? Clear your mind, allow answers to come to you rather than feel like you need to run after things in order to fix it yourself. See where you can have the universe as your co-pilot, right? Or allow the universe to come to you around when you sit down and you meditate and you clear your mind. Sometimes you could see solutions where in the moment of feeling very frazzled and hectic about it, you did not tap into that. Again, our work is not just in this physical plane. And a lot of times when we leverage our own spiritual abilities, our own spiritual practices, our protection rituals, what have you, a lot of times when we master that world, a lot of the things within our material world do flow with a little bit more ease. Whether we're able to minimize the problems around, okay, in this big scheme of things, this is not, the end of the world, or we're able to channel a solution towards it, or we embody this mindset of surrender and we allow our problems to be solved for us. Again, I think the work this eclipse season is to let things settle. We're in Pisces season. Pisces is a water sign. Sometimes when things feel chaotic and hectic and busy, we could be thrashing in the water, but you won't be able to see to the bottom when you kick up all the dust, right, of all this continual movement and just kind of paddling, not knowing where you're going. You gotta let things settle. You gotta let things settle. That brings the clarity. And so the practices that help you arrive to that place of peace or allow you to arrive to that place of surrender, whether that's yoga, whether that's meditation, art, time in nature. No, it is not productive by Virgo standards, but it's soul food and it's actually going to allow these problems to get solved with a bit more ease. Like a lot of times we have to get out of the problem in order to find the solution. So the Virgo tendency will be to enmesh ourselves more in the problem, to freak out and to overthink around all of the ways that we can solve it. But there's an invitation around this time to step out of the problem, let things settle, let yourself come back to a clear, peaceful state of mind, and you'd be surprised. A lot of times the solution does arrive, or the problem works itself out, or with perspective, we're able to minimize it and shift things around. There is a nudge around this. So as I was sharing earlier, we are all on our own path, right? We are all on our own spiritual, soulful path, answering our own individual callings and our own karma, so on and so forth. And when we acknowledge that, we equally acknowledge that we all are in different seasons. We all have different themes and emphases playing out within our lives currently. Some of us will have a more intensified eclipse story. Some of us will have a more subtle eclipse story. So to get into the individual nuances of this eclipse, we'll want to look at your chart and where it's impacting. So firstly, let's begin with who will feel this eclipse the most. Okay, who will feel this eclipse the most? So if you notice that within your chart, you have placements in the signs Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, particularly between 18 to 28 degrees. The Virgo lunar eclipse on March 13th, March 14th, 2025 will be more impactful for you in your chart because that indicates that the lunar eclipse is making a harsh aspect to one of your planets, thus indicating that these themes will be a little bit more emphasized for you and for your chart. When you look at your mutable placements between those degrees, I would put particular emphasis on your personal placements. That would be Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and then your angles, ascendant, IC, descendant, midheaven. Those will be the most impactful. When we start talking about Jupiter and Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, that's a little bit more generational, so it's not necessarily that it's going to be too transformative within your own personal journey. But if it is impacting one of those personal placements or angles, it can be a little bit more eventful, for better and for worse. And even if you don't have placements in those degrees in that modality, I would also say it may be more influential of an eclipse if it lands in your first house, your fourth house, your seventh house, or your 10th house. So let's get into which reading you should listen to. So there are two options when figuring out which reading you should listen to. The first, if you utilize whole sign house system, or you are newer to astrology, you are new to this language, new to this art of interpretation, my encouragement would be to find your rising sign, also known as your ascendant sign, and find the timestamp that corresponds with that sign within the description. That is your reading. We base readings off your rising sign because that is the sign that sets off your houses, and we're really looking at which house the lunar eclipse lands in for you, because that's the life arena that it's kicking up. So you could just fast forward to that timestamp and that is your reading. If you use Placidus house system, I do as well. It's a more specific way to find the exact portion of the sky that this lunar eclipse lands in. It's a bit more complicated, but I'll walk you through step by step. So the website that I typically encourage use of is astro.com. It's pretty simple, pretty seamless. You'll input your own birth information, and from there you'll get a circle chart. It looks like this. Even if you do not have any Virgo planets, you do have a Virgo portion of your chart, and that's what we're looking for. So in this example, inner planet Janet, we see that the Virgo glyph, I'm circling it, it looks like a green M. We see that that glyph goes from here to here. This is the Virgo section of her chart. We see it goes from her 6th house until her 7th house. Now we'll want to get specific. Where exactly does this lunar eclipse land? It lands at 23 degrees Virgo. So we'll want to go to the beginning of Virgo. That is the line that borders it with Leo, the glyph that I'm circling right here. So find where Leo ends, Virgo begins. This is 0 degrees Virgo. These little grid marks indicate increments of 5. So what we're going to do is we're going to go 5, 10, 15, 20. And then I want you to go about halfway in between the 20 grid mark and the next grid mark, which is 25. This lunar eclipse in March 2025 lands at 23 degrees Virgo. So that lands roughly right about here. And we see with an inner planet Janet, this is her 7th house. So she would go to Virgo lunar eclipse in the 7th house reading. Sometimes in some charts, you might not be able to tell. You might be like, Haley, Comet, but it looks like that could be in the 6th house. It could be in the 7th house. For that, you'll want to click on the button that says PDF additional tables or additional charts. It'll be towards the top. And on the right-hand side, you'll see the degree and the sign that every house begins in. So if the next house starts at 24 degrees or later, it will be in the house prior. If that house starts at 23 degrees or earlier, it will be within that house. So now that you found the reading that you should listen to and the mess within your life that the Virgo lunar eclipse is asking you to clean up, let's go ahead and take it into our Virgo lunar eclipse house by house analysis. If the Virgo lunar eclipse March 2025 lands within the 1st house of self, identity, appearance, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Virgo rising, Virgo ascendant, but even if you are not, what you are definitely is having a major eclipse story, as this eclipse lands in an angular house in the house of self at that. So this is definitely an eclipse that will be more influential and impactful for you. And for some of you, the wheels may be turning already, where you might be putting these pieces together around Haley Comet. There's this energy of culmination and surrender in the house of self. Does this mean that I am losing myself? And to that, I would say yes and no. You are not losing yourself, but you are releasing an outdated version of self that is not supporting you in writing the next chapter of your story. It's like allowing the protagonist, you, within your novel, to evolve. And knowing that you may not show up in this chapter as you showed up in the past chapter. That's character development, my love. A lot of you, South Node is in the sign of your rising. If you're a Virgo rising, you've had Saturn oppose any Virgo placements that you've had. There's been some character development. And it's unrealistic to expect ourselves to show up the same moment to moment, chapter to chapter. And so this is an eclipse around letting an outdated version of self go. And this is a grieving, right? Sometimes we do grieve who we were. Maybe you grieve who you were before you got into a particular relationship. Maybe you grieve who you were when you had a particular job. Maybe you grieve who you were before you got this particular health diagnosis. Like, naturally, we're going to grieve past versions of ourselves. But there's an invitation around this lunar eclipse to let that go and to get excited around the new iterations of ourselves that we will meet. And I want to encourage you, I would plant a seed around self-concept, around how it is that you see yourself as the protagonist in your novel. Because sometimes the ways that we see ourselves does hold us back to tapping into all that we are, but also all that we have the capacity to be within our story. For example, if you see yourself as a hard worker, that's a beautiful quality that likely served you in many chapters of your journey. But you may find that there's a natural shift that's occurring within you where suddenly you're not wanting to work 14-hour days, 16-hour days any longer. Suddenly work isn't the center of your world. Suddenly you're not tearing your hair out of small elements of your work. And sometimes we can feel that and be like, what's going on? I don't recognize this version of myself who has desires outside of my work and doesn't find it sustainable to work as long. Like, what's happening? But when we allow this shift to take place, we're able to meet these new sides of ourselves where maybe we're feeling more called at this time to delegate more so to others, to maybe outsource certain elements of our work to others. Maybe there's other elements of our life that we're wanting to prioritize that we put on the back burner. And rather than clinging to who we were as a protagonist in the past chapter, there's an invitation to see who you are in this next chapter. And sometimes we panic when we don't recognize ourselves, but it just represents that you have a character arc at this time, my love. And that might have been important within the past chapter of your journey, but just naturally, if you're feeling new sides of yourself unfold and other parts of yourself kind of fall away, honor that process. Do not cling to how life used to be or who you used to be, especially at a time like this. And this could also be just how it is that you see yourself. Maybe you've always seen yourself as someone who does best behind the scenes. Maybe that's blocking you from new opportunities to get your art out there. Maybe you've always seen yourself as someone who's always there to help every other person. Maybe that's keeping you in a martyred role, right? And allowing resentment to fester. If you always see yourself as a hard worker who, stays late, first to the office, last to leave, that could keep you from scaling your business in ways that could get you more time to create and to enjoy the life that you've built. Get to know yourself within this next chapter and know that the very sensation of being lost means that your life is transforming into something that you do not recognize. And with that, you are evolving into something that at this present moment you may not recognize. But you may very well like this iteration of self because some of you could be shedding some of these Virgo-like qualities that you are ready to release. You're like, I'm sick of how much of a perfectionist I am. I tear my hair out in this effort to try to be perfect. Or I despise how nervous I always am. I wish I could cultivate more trust. Play with, what if I was someone who was more gentle and compassionate with myself and didn't hold myself to standards of perfection? What if I was someone who was in flow with the universe? What would that look like? Again, Virgo is typically an energy that's very grounded, but you're kind of getting this opportunity to play into this Piscean spirit around what if I could create and conjure a new way of viewing the world? And as I always say with eclipses, this is not the time to force things into fruition or even to force this new side of yourself to snap into place, right? But it is a time to allow it, especially if you're feeling a nudge in a certain direction. And there could be part of you that wants to go back and reread the chapter because you feel more safe in that. But there's an invitation around allowing yourself to be challenged within this next chapter and allowing yourself to be changed within this next chapter. And because you have Virgo in the first house, this indicates that you are somebody who has a certain attachment to being seen as perfect. And I'm not saying that you have a God complex, but what I will say is that typically those who have Virgo in the first house do feel like it is very important to present a very put together front. Even if your life is a mess, that is not other people's problem. You could feel like it's very important to still show up with your clothes matched, or at least with an air of knowing what you're doing, knowing what you're talking about. That could be very important to you, to even project this veneer of perfectionism. And I would argue with this eclipse that may not be serving you any longer. That may be taking too much needless energy from you to pretend like you do not have issues and problems, to put all of this energy into selling this narrative that you know exactly what you're doing and you know exactly where you're going. There is an element of humility around this Virgo lunar eclipse. Because I would argue when we allow ourselves to be humble, to admit that we have faults, that we have bad days, that we have bad hair days, right? Sometimes we don't know what we're doing. We have no clue. When we acknowledge that, we are less defensive when it comes to criticism, which some of you could be experiencing around this eclipse, more on that in a bit, because we acknowledge our own humanity. We're like, yeah, I'm a person. I make mistakes sometimes. I spill on myself sometimes. I have bad hair days sometimes. It's only when we hold ourselves to the standard of perfection that we get very defensive when people criticize us, because we're like, they're criticizing me? Virgo placements, not all of you are Virgo risings, but Virgo placements typically are more sensitive when it comes to criticism because they are so critical of themselves, right? And so sometimes there's this energy of projecting perfection because they feel like if they project it, eventually they'll believe it for themselves. And it's this desire to run away from their own perceived messiness and imperfection around projecting this veneer, feeling like if they project it, they'll embody that. That takes a lot of effort from you. And some of you could be like, I've tried. I tried to be perfect. I tried to be perfect for potentially everybody else. And it just took a lot of energy from me. And honestly, I'm kind of bored of it. Sometimes when we have South Node in the first house, we're a little bored. We're a little more apathetic. We're a little bit more like, what matters? This used to have a lot of value to me, whether it was chasing this particular career goal or building this or doing that. And there just could be an energy around, I just don't connect with that any longer. It's a bit like feeling uprooted in a sense around, I grew this, I'm here, but now I don't want to be here, but I also don't know where I want to be. Like sometimes we can deal with layers of apathy, and I just want to validate that just in case that's been coming up for you. But there could be signs and synchronicities and even people that are coming your way that are guiding you towards where you will plant yourself next in some direction. And I say this because you most likely have North Node in your 7th house and Saturn in your 7th house, which is directly involved with this eclipse. And this will show up differently for each of you. Some of you, you're having a fundamental change to your identity because of a partnership within your world. And this could be taking the next step within a relationship. Oh, now we're engaged, or now we're married, right? Or now I have a partner. And it's shifting your sense of self around, okay, now I'm no longer single, now I'm a wife, right? Or now I'm this person's caretaker. Like there could be a shift to your own identity because of a commitment that you've made to a person within your life. And yes, South Node in the first house, our sense of self does go through a change, and it is natural to feel lost, but my encouragement would just be to be mindful not to lose yourself within caretaking someone, helping someone, partnering with someone. Because this could show up a couple different ways. One being your partner could be going through something challenging at this time. They could feel stressed out with work. They have more pressures, obligations, responsibilities, stuff's going on with their family. There could be things happening within your partner. And it's a beautiful thing to support your partner and guide them through it or support them through it. But I feel like some of you might find around this eclipse, you're like, wait, hold on. I don't even recognize myself. I've been so enmeshed in this person and their problems and wanting to help them with that and support them with it that I've put my own needs to the back seat and I don't even know who I am anymore. Like I'm so lost in the you and me that I've disconnected from the me part of this equation. Like some of you could find with this lunar eclipse, you're like, I have lost myself within this dimension. I don't recognize myself in seeking to support you. And on a more sinister note, this could show up around you are in a connection and you've lost yourself in an effort to be what this person wants you to be or expects you to be. Feeling like you had to mold yourself around this person's specifications and desires and preferences. Again, the more we try to be perfect, the more we distance ourselves from the unique soul that we came here to be. So if you are partnered with someone who's constantly telling you that you need to be A, B, and C, there's like an acknowledgement around this lunar eclipse around, okay, well then go find A, B, and C. Why would you date a brunette and tell me that I should be blonde? Or why would you date someone who's an introvert and want them to be out in the club 4 nights a week? Like, go find someone who's out in the club. I'm not saying relationships shouldn't challenge us to tap into new sides of ourselves. I'm not saying that we don't have ways that we can grow, but some of you are just having this acknowledgement around, do you want me or do you want a doll that you can mold in your exact preferences? And even if it's not showing up so literal around being partnered with someone who's critical, you could just feel more criticized by the outside world. And I just feel like some of you are reaching this point of surrender or humility around, all right, I'll never be everything you want me to be because I was not designed to be who you want me to be. I'm never going to be out in the club 4 nights a week. That's not my path. Or maybe even for some of you, like certain clients or a business partner of yours or something like this, there could just be this energy of criticism. I feel like this energy of humility, like I said, around, I give up. I'm just human. I can't be perfect. I can't be a doll. I can't be this. I can't be that. Can I just be me now? Can I just be me now? Again, trying to feed what people want you to be is an endless quest, and you will lose yourself in that quest. That's not a quest you want to be on. You want to be the quest of being who it is that you're here to be, and synchronizing and aligning with the souls who are also soulfully who they are meant to be. You know, you've got North Node in Pisces. If you try to be someone that you are not, you will not attract the right people to you. So even if you're holding yourself back out of this feeling of what you feel like you need to be in order to attract the right person, that also could be coming up at this time. And for others of you, the themes are more so focused around health and body. Some of you could have something around health or your body revealed at this time. Some of you could be releasing any sort of outdated way of viewing yourself. Maybe you felt like your body always needed to look like this, and you're recognizing that that's not healthy, that belonged to a prior version of you. You know, when it comes to health, we can do all the right things. We can work out, we can eat our greens, we can take our supplements, we can do all the things. But if we're doing so while also eating and ingesting feelings of guilt and shame, that is fundamentally unhealthy. Alternatively, I would argue it could be quite healthy to indulge in a little sugar every so often or to do something bad, so long as you do so without guilt or shame, ingesting those feelings, if you just enjoy it, right? So some of you could be releasing around, this is not healthy. Maybe it's healthy, but it's not like healthy to a soul level. And maybe I've even holding my body back by expecting it to look how it looked in the last chapter of the book. Maybe I'm tapping into new sides of myself. And that could also come through within your aesthetic, within your appearance. Maybe you're allowing yourself to be a little more messy in how it is that you show up to the outside world. If you're typically someone who's very dialed in, slick back hair, and things always match, I mean, this is a time that you're experimenting with new ways of expressing yourself. Again, other people might have something to say about it with the opposition to Saturn, but Virgo, to thine own self be true. And it's going to be important to be true to yourself, both in this chapter as well as in the chapter that you are actively writing. This message is for you if the Virgo lunar eclipse lands in the 2nd house of your astrological natal chart. You may potentially be a Leo rising, Leo ascendant. You potentially may not be a Leo rising, Leo ascendant. You may just have 23 degrees Virgo in your 2nd house. But either way, the focus of this eclipse is really around values, self-esteem, and money. So let's dive in. So firstly, let's bring up money, because I know when we think, okay, lunar eclipse, South Node, 2nd house, a lot of you might be like, does this mean I'm going to lose money? Not necessarily. You might just be releasing an outdated way of viewing money. The first theme that I'm tapping into is that some of you are looking at your business, if you own your own business, and looking how to scale your time and energy. Like, you're looking at how you make money that's utterly dependent on your time and on your labor, and you're curious if you can open it up in order to embrace different cash flows in different ways that isn't so contingent upon your time, which is a limited resource. Some of you could be opening yourself up to this around recognizing that you can only do so much. You literally only have so many hours in the day. So it could be an energy around, when it comes to your business, you're prioritizing more so what could have maximum reach or what could generate more income or more revenue, and less so around more income and more revenue, like making more revenue, not wanting your offerings to be strictly tied to your being there or your showing up or your one-to-one services, which you can only do so many of. So that's one theme that I'm tapping into. Others of you could find at this time that you are selling something. Maybe you're even releasing a stream of income that took too much work from you, like the money wasn't worth it. Like money is an energetic exchange. Like it doesn't always feel good. If we're involved in the wrong things, it doesn't always feel good, right? Or it feels lopsided around, I worked so hard and I did not feel properly compensated for it. Like money's energetic. When you set your prices appropriately, you feel good. It feels balanced. It really is this give and take. And some of you could be looking at how hard you've been working at something and not feel like the numbers are there for that to make sense any longer. Others of you might be going through a season of your life where you're less motivated by money. Maybe that used to be something that was very motivating to you, but you may find, North Node in Pisces in your 8th house, you may feel like you're more lit up by studying the secrets of the universe. You may have had some sort of major loss within your life that really awakened you to what really matters out of it, and recognizing that people's final calls when they are on the final bed that they'll be on in this lifetime, it's not to their financial advisor asking, what's my final number? It's within my bank account. What's my final number within my 401k? No, they call the people that they love, because that's what really matters. When we talk about 8th house, 2nd house, we talk about what we take with us and what we don't. We don't take the stuff with us. We don't take the money with us. What we do take with us when we do pass on is legacy and memories and what it is that we leave. And so some of you are just less apt to want to earn more, to make more, to spend more. Like it could just be feeling kind of shallow at this time. You're like, I would rather put my energy into things that really have meaning for me. Others of you could be selling things at this time. You could just find that a lot of your possessions, you're feeling cluttered. You're like, just get this stuff out of my space. I'm craving space. We do need space to create. I always find that if I'm in the process of launching something or I'm about to launch something, typically before I'll feel this call around wanting to like clear out the clutter from my home. 2nd house is our possessions. And with South Node here, you might just be feeling like less is more at this time. Some of you could be like downsizing. Some of you could be selling things, clearing space. Some of you could even be selling things to make money at this time if you do go through something financially. Some of you could be releasing an attachment to needing to always provide for yourself. Like some of you may have support that is opened up to you by way of some sort of loan, by way of some sort of grant, an inheritance, something like this. And while it's lovely to receive, it's not always comfortable for all of us, especially you most likely have Saturn in the 8th house as well. So it could feel uncomfortable, especially if you're not used to being in that receiver mode. If you're typically used to like hustling and chasing and grinding and providing for yourself, it could feel uncomfortable. And even if this isn't showing up with finances and with stuff and people wanting to buy you stuff and spoil you and things like this, it could also show up around just your overall ability to receive within this lifetime. Also observing how it is that you receive compliments, right? When someone compliments you, do you feel like you have to compliment them right back or do something for them? Like it's like allowing the flow of the universe and allowing yourself to receive, not feeling like you have to do anything in order to receive. You've done enough. Like some of you are getting to the space around, I've been burning myself out and working and I deserve to receive. I deserve to be in my receiving era. And that could be coming up, whether it's tied to finances or tied to something else. I also see there just could be this energy around releasing, having your self-esteem contingent upon your work ethic, your perfection. Something like this could be something that you are shedding at this time. You also could be letting go of values that no longer align at this point of your journey. And some of you could have always valued your ability to plan and to perfect and to improve, and you could find that's not something I value at this point of my journey. You could just find that you're craving to be more in awe of synchronicity and divinity. You could feel a little bored with just like the physical reality of things, and you're really in a space to open yourself up to things that are magical and mystical. And yes, when we talk about North Node in the 8th house, Saturn in the 8th house, a lot of you could be in the bit of a metamorphosis, which, you know, the caterpillar has to feel a little bored or dissatisfied with its reality for it to go into the cocoon and become a butterfly, right? And it's not looking at your current environment, your current bank account, your current possessions, and feeling like that's all that you are. You are so much more. Feeling that that's all that you are. You have a value that's beyond measure. And so some of you could be allowing that becoming and allowing that transformation process and not being so hard on yourself within that process. You know, some of you might have had a tendency to maybe beat yourself up for past financial mistakes. Maybe you are very self-deprecating because of the way that you handle money. Maybe you are very hard on yourself because of where your finances are at this point in time. And North Node in Pisces invites you to step into a perspective beyond this point in time, beyond the reality and the physicality of it. Step into the divinity or the higher perspective around it. Around this is a particular season of your life. You know, a lot of incredibly wealthy people, I would argue most, have a rock bottom moment, like particularly financially. And what matters is that you keep showing up. What matters is that you decide, this is my rock bottom. This is the part of my journey where everything changes for me, and moving towards that. And again, I feel like for some of you with North Node Pisces, you could be leveraging some spiritual work or something like this in order to move your physical reality. You're not allowing the physical, tangible reflection of your world to dictate your emotions or your potential. There could be a moment that comes up where you look at your bank account and you see the amount that's in there and you recognize, oh, this is a part of the memoir that I'm going to talk about when I was, you know, down to this amount of money and everything changed for me. It's like deciding here, this is where everything changes for me. Again, you'll have to do the work here, but it's deciding here, and it's following the breadcrumbs of where universe is guiding you. And if we always stay 100% rooted within our reality, and sometimes even chained to our reality, we never allow ourselves to see what we could have been had we followed all the breadcrumbs, had we actualized our talents and abilities. I think that's the most terrifying thing at all. If at the end of our life, we're shown who we could have been had we trusted ourselves, had we transformed, had we followed our intuition, like that terrifies me. That truly keeps me up at night thinking about who I could have been. And if we go based on the reality of how things are, that reality will continue to enforce itself day in and day out. We're not stepping out of it in order to conjure and create what it could be. So whether this is around finances or not, I just see that some of you are really embodying this mentality around this eclipse around, I am so much more than this present moment. I'm so much more than this bank account right now. I am so much more than this particular job. The value of my soul is immeasurable, and it's so beyond what is alive right now. I'm not going to latch my own identity to what is in my experience right now, and allowing that to evolve and allowing that to transform. And even if it's not a lack of funds, some of you could acknowledge how your possessions are possessing you. Maybe you worked so hard in order to afford this boat or afford something within your life, and you're recognizing that it didn't bring you more freedom and vitality and connection. It's just one more thing that you have to pay off. Like some of you could be cutting free from things that feel more restrictive or suffocating. If the Virgo Lunar Eclipse March 2025 lands within the 3rd house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Cancer ascendant. You potentially may not be a Cancer ascendant. But when it comes to the lunar spotlight, this eclipse, there is a focus around your mind, your communication, your technology, your short-term travel, your neighborhood, your neighbors, your siblings. Let's get into it. Let's break it down. Firstly, I want to say that if you are a Cancer rising, this means that you are ruled by the moon. You are more sensitive to lunations regardless, and eclipses are like a lunation on steroids. This is like a full moon squared, okay? The energetic, emotional undercurrents tend to heighten around eclipses. So I want to just start by saying you are lunar sensitive, so you may really feel this eclipse as well as eclipses in general more intensely. But back to the overall themes, because I know some people in Placidus house system may not be Cancer risings. Some of you could receive around the time of this eclipse some bad news or something that comes in that is not ideal. And there is an ask to really work the muscle of faith. Because it's easy to have faith when everything is going swimmingly and everything is unfolding exactly as we planned it, exactly as we thought that it would. It's easy to believe in the universe. It's easy to believe in God. It's easy to believe in your own spiritual rituals, whatever that may be. It's when faith is challenged. It's when circumstances don't go according to plan. That's when faith is really put to the test. And that may be part of your March 2025. You may receive news that is not ideal. You mentally could be very hard on yourself. You know, I spoke within the collective forecast how there is a spotlight around releasing criticism. And for a lot of you, your mind is your biggest hater, honestly. Like, you could rip yourself apart on small details of your life or filter through everything around what's wrong or what could be better, dismissing what is, tuning so much on what is not. And there's an ask around this lunation to work that muscle of faith, to work that muscle of trust, to work that muscle of surrender, to see wherever possible you can witness things from a higher perspective. You might have a challenging conversation. You might receive some bad news. And those are the moments in which we lean upon our faith. Like I said, easy to have faith when everything is going according to plan. But does your faith remain when times get challenging? When your initial vision for how you thought things were going to go does not unfold as you thought that it would? Do you still believe in God? Do you still believe in the universe? And maybe even for some of you, you're turning to God, universe, astrology, numerology, whatever it is that tunes you into something bigger. Maybe you're tuning into that in order to make sense of what's happening right now. Maybe you did receive some bad news or a text message that was not ideal. You had a conversation that was not ideal. Maybe you're even dealing with a situation involving a sibling, a cousin, an extended family member. And maybe you're turning to these systems in order to make sense of it, or in order to arrive to this place of compassion and forgiveness around, this doesn't compute within my brain, so I'm giving this over to God. I'm giving this over to God. You know, if you are in some sort of challenging situation with someone, there's only so much you can do. You know, a lot of you are Cancer risings, very caring energy, Virgo, the sign of this lunation, very helpful energy. You can only do so much. Some jobs are the universe's. So you might have someone within your life where you want to help, you're trying to give them advice, they're not taking that advice, and this is your invitation to let go and let God, not in a disempowering way, but in a way around, I can't do your push-ups for you. I could send you the quotes, I could give you the advice, I could give you the encouragement, but at the end of the day, it's your spiritual work, it's your spiritual journey, and I see that some of you are actually loosening control that you may have on a situation, understanding this is the divine's job to intervene. Or even if you don't believe in God, even looking to astrology to better understand this neighbor that you're having a challenge with, or a sibling that you're having a challenge with, something like this, being able to view things from a higher perspective. Some of you may find around this time that you are being guided by faith. And there could be certain naysayers around you. Like I said, these naysayers could very much be in your head. But there could be certain people telling you that your plans are not realistic, that they don't make sense. And there is an energy where you are being guided. Now, where you're being guided differs for every person who's watching this. Some of you are being guided to follow some sort of spiritual path. Some of you are being guided to travel, maybe live nomadically. Some of you are being guided to write or publish some sort of book. It differs for everyone, but it's more so like higher wisdom. And it's a path that only you can chisel, and it's a path that only few will understand. Again, when we think about third house, it's kind of like the collective consciousness. I think of it as, it's a beautiful house. I have placements here, but it is kind of like the small talk house, right? It's kind of like the gossip house. Whereas ninth house is wisdom. Ninth house is leather-bound books. Ninth house is going on a quest, going on a journey. And even if you're not getting on an airplane and literally going somewhere, there could be this desire to leave the familiar of your everyday surroundings in order to go on a journey, to follow what gives you meaning. And what gives you meaning is not going to be the same thing that gives the people around you meaning. There could be an energy around letting go of fear of judgment around neighbors. Maybe some of you are dealing with critical neighbors. You know, every time you go outside, they're like side-eyeing you. Or maybe there's even classmates around you who don't get you. right? They don't understand you. Virgo is very rational. It's very realistic. Not everybody has the capacity to understand you. And I see that you guys are letting go of critical voices, whether it's an attachment to them around fearing judgment from your neighbors, so you only take your trash out at night so you won't see them, or fearing judgment from your siblings so you don't share everything that's going on with you. Some of you could be releasing your attachment around, it is what it is, right? Live and let live. I don't judge you, you don't judge me. Maybe you will judge me, but I don't care. I'm just letting go of my attachment to controlling the narrative around how the people in my immediate surroundings perceive me, because I'm on a bigger path. I'm on a different path, I should say. And some of you could be letting go of gossip, small talk. Some of you could even be limiting your consumption of social media, just not interested in things that don't really mean something to your soul. Maybe that's a routine that you are cutting out at this point. Maybe you had a certain routine where every morning you would get up and you would check your social media feed. Maybe now you're getting up and you're going for a hike. Maybe now you're getting up and you're reading a passage from a spiritual book of some sort. Like, you could be really in this search of knowledge and wisdom, and you are letting go of certain habits around consuming mindless clutter or gossip or rumors that aren't really adding to your big picture. And again, I am not calling your mental interests mindless. It's more so this energy around you staying present around, what is this doing to me? This information that I'm taking in, is this really filling my soul, or is this just holding space in my brain so that I don't have the room and the space to worry about the future? You know, I've shared this before in my channel, but I used to be someone where I always needed to have a video or a podcast playing in the background because I didn't want there to be quiet, right? I didn't want there to be a moment of quiet. I wanted my mind to be perpetually busy. I feared what would happen if my mind was not perpetually busy. And it's hard to exercise mindfulness. I love content, I love learning, but if you are constantly feeling like you have to fill your mind with stuff, maybe there's something that you are being asked to confront. And maybe within that space, if you decide you want to cultivate more of it, you want to start meditating or executing more mindfulness, maybe within that space you see why you're trying to distract your mind around, am I trying to distract myself from my own inner criticism? Am I trying to distract myself from the fear that I have of the future? Because Virgo is a very worried energy, and you have it within the third house, which would suggest that you are very brilliant, but you can have a mind that's constantly taking in all the details and thinking about plan B, plan C, plan D, which is a lot for your mind to take on. And I would argue that plugging into what gives us a sense of meaning, what helps us connect to something bigger than ourselves, helps tune out all of the chatter, right, of the mind around the worries and what if this happens, what if this happens, what if this happens. And like I said, I feel like at this time there could be news that comes out, a conversation that is not good from your own human understanding, but for some reason you feel very supported and protected during it. That could be because what it is that you are learning, that could be because of some sort of bigger project that you are in the midst of. There's something that's giving you a sense of faith, even though logically it doesn't make sense. People around you might be like, that doesn't make sense, but there's just this energy around feeling guided. And that's the voice for you to tune into at this time. You are guided, you are protected, you are led. Follow the breadcrumbs around where spirit is guiding you. If the Virgo lunar eclipse lands within the 4th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Gemini rising, you potentially may not be a Gemini rising, but either way, you've got an eclipse in an angular house, my love. So let's get into it. So what do I mean by angular house? Angular houses are the essentially pillars of the chart. If we were to distill life into the most important quadrants, it comes down to self, which is represented by 1st house, home, family, represented by 4th house, relationships, represented by 7th house, and career, represented by 10th house. Of course, there's a lot of other dimensions to the chart and to life altogether, but these are essentially the most distilled, impactful arenas of life. So it tends to be pretty transformative when we do have eclipses landing here. So to speak to your eclipse story, with an eclipse in the 4th house, there could be something coming up around this time around family, potentially. That's the first theme that I want to tap into. Some of you could have a relationship with a family member of someone who's very controlling of you, very critical of you, nitpicks everything that you do. You never feel good enough. You never feel like you're doing enough, successful enough. And I feel some of you are reaching this point around being fed up, around fine. And again, maybe this is someone who is literally in your life. Maybe you're dealing with the residue of what having a family member like this did to your brain, to your psyche. And I see that some of you actually might be kind of enforcing some boundaries around this eclipse with the opposition to Saturn. You might be more inclined to put your foot down, maybe not play to the typical role that you typically do. Let's say you have a family member and typically they criticize you and you run out and fix that thing. There could be an energy where it's like, yeah, and what else? And what else? What other comments do you have for me? Because when we change in a dynamic, the other person has no choice but to also change. Like as we shift, the people around us shift as well. The dynamic shifts altogether. And so some of you might have reached this point where it's like, enough is enough. I cannot allow myself to continually be told who to be, how to be, how I'm not being enough, how I'm not doing enough. Like I am enough. I'm deciding that for myself. And some of you, this might have been after a long journey of trying to be enough, making all of these tweaks in order to finally feel enough. And others of you, you may not even be able to pinpoint a family member who may have continued on this rhetoric that then you internalize, but this just could be your internal emotional landscape even. Being emotional and then criticizing yourself for being emotional. Like there could be an energy where you're very mercurial as it relates to your emotions, and you could be very hard on yourself when it comes to your emotions. And this eclipse could spotlight to you how this is something that's no longer serving you, especially in the next chapter of your life. And for some of you, a lot is happening within career. There's a lot of pressure within career. You might have a lot of eyes on you at this time. You might have gotten a new position that's requiring a lot of effort from you. You might be really putting in work at this time in order to set your career up on solid footing. And because of that, you might feel like you have less available energy in order to give to family in a way that you typically do. So it's like, let's say you have a family member who, even if they're not critiquing you, they're always complaining and nothing's ever good enough for them, and you kind of run around in order to accommodate them. There could be an energy around, I don't have the emotional labor at this moment or the physical capacity in order to help you this time. And there could be an energy where you feel a little spread too thin. And there's an energy around, I can either choose myself, and there could be an energy where it's like, I have to choose my sanity. Like this situation is going to drive me insane. I have to choose sanity in order to keep all of these areas of my life moving in some regard. And I hope you don't mind, I'm drinking a cup of tea. If you watch Magic Monday, you know I always have a beverage in hand. Normally I hide it off camera, but in this video I've been having it in my hand. It just feels more comfortable for me to give a reading with a cup in my hand. I don't know why, but coming back to you, some of you could be at this time letting go of a degree of privacy. And that doesn't need to be a scary thing. It could just be this energy. If you've been hiding your talents, hiding your abilities, not advertising yourself, not putting your business out there, not allowing your art to be seen, this could be a time that you're letting go of the fear of visibility, particularly if it has roots in you are very critical of your own art. You are very critical of your own business. You don't want to put it out there because you feel like other people will judge it as much as you judge yourself. That could be something that you're consciously letting go of at this particular time. Some of you could be letting go of certain habits that you recognize now are not healthy for you. They're not emotionally healthy for you, is what I want to say. Some of them could have been learned from your family. Some of them could be ancestral, but some of them could just be, I recognize that this is not the healthiest way to cope. You know, I know we think of Virgo as like Pilates and green juice, right? Like healthy habits, but Virgo is habits. Good habits or bad habits. Virgo represents the choices that we make every single day. And the choices that we make every single day snowball into bigger effects in, yes, our health, but also in our emotional health, right? So there could be an energy around letting go of certain things that you recognize this is not good for my mental health, for my emotional health. Maybe even some of you are just recognizing with this eclipse, I need to get out of the house. Maybe some of you, when you are dealing with stuff, your tendency is to kind of like hermit and withdraw. And of course, in many places around the globe, this will be like the end of winter, which tends to be a little blah, right? Spring's right around the corner, my love. But you know, there could be an energy around, I need to be home less. Like this actually isn't good for my emotional health and my mental health, just being at home all of the time. And again, some of you might be struggling around work. Maybe some of you are looking for employment at this time, or there could just be pressure around work where your life is just kind of revolving around, I go to work and then I'm at home or something like this balancing around what is out there versus what is in here, and wanting to find more balance in those arenas in a healthy way, right? And I see that some of you, you know, you could be caretaking for a family member or something like that, which is a beautiful thing to do. I just feel like some of you might reach around this time a little bit of compassion burnout, feeling a little drained, feeling a little depleted, continually pouring into someone and not pouring into yourself. Like maybe this eclipse is just recognizing like, wow, all of my energy is going to work and to caretaking. Like there's nothing left over for myself. How much longer is this sustainable? Like truly and honestly, how much longer is this sustainable? And how can I bring myself back into balance right now? And maybe if there are certain family dynamics where you go above and beyond, right? You go way beyond what is necessary, or you do things that are not necessarily your responsibility to do so. Again, I'm not saying to abandon those particular tasks, but there can be an acknowledgement around this time around, oh, it's never enough, right? I run this errand for you, and now you want me to run this errand for you and this errand for you. And maybe you've identified with being the helpful family member who's always there to drop everything and show up for everybody else. Maybe there's a shift timed with this eclipse. Of course, there could be family dynamics coming up to the surface. There could be a spotlight on someone within your family's health, maternal health in some regard. Again, no fear whatsoever. I don't want you to have any fear. Just sometimes that can be a spotlight here. I would also say this could be a time that you're letting go of stuff around your home, particularly if it's cluttering your home. There could be this energy around choosing to circulate items, right? Trusting in the power of, you know, circulation and renewal, and that what we put out there comes back around. Like a lot of you could feel more apt at this time for spring cleaning or wanting to just get rid of stuff. And maybe even some of you have gone through something challenging and there's like a desire to get out all of the memorabilia or all of like the sentimental stuff that's in your home that reminds you of that era of your life. There could be an energy around, I've got to let it go, right? And some of you may find, due to family obligations and responsibilities, some of you may feel like you've lost yourself a little bit. And there could be an ask at this time to come back to the bigger picture of your life. What gives you a sense of meaning? What helps you understand that this season of your life is just that? It's a season of your life, and allows you to be open to the shifts, because sometimes when there's eclipses in angular houses, there are definitely shifts, while also feeling anchored by your own belief systems, by what gives you a sense of faith. So if this lunar eclipse lands in your 5th house, this message is for you. You may be a Taurus rising, you may just have 23 degrees Virgo within your 5th house, but either way, this eclipse is spotlighting a need for release and surrender around your recreation, around your leisure, around your creativity, so on and so forth. Let's get into this. So 5th house is the party house. It's the fun house, it's the dating house, it's the flirting house, and it's a fun house. But when there's an eclipse landing here, there might be something fun that you're recognizing is not fun anymore. For example, if you gamble a lot, you might get to a place around this eclipse around recognizing this is not fun anymore. This doesn't hit the same. This ritual is actually leading me towards more feelings of anxiety or more desperation around maybe this next one, maybe this next one, maybe this next spin, maybe this next slot machine. This is not adding good and light and happy and fulfilled feelings in my life. It's not giving me meaning in my life. It's not helping me proceed towards my goals, really, with North Node in your 11th house. Some of you could be letting go of drinking. Maybe you've been in a certain routine where you go out, you drink, you party. You know, we tend to think of the energy of Virgo as more so healthy rituals, healthy routines, waking up at 5, green juice, yoga. Virgo governs routines and rituals for better and for worse. You know, you can get up at 5 and go to yoga and drink green juice every single day. You can drink a bottle of Jack Daniels by 2 p.m. every day. They're both rituals. They're both routines. And there could be a focus at this time around there's a typical way that you spend your leisure hours or your fun that you're recognizing is not good for you in some way. And let's say you do cut back on video games. You know, there could be an energy around feeling disconnected from your typical communities because of that decision, with the opposition to Saturn most likely in your 11th house. If you decide to no longer drink or cut back on your drinking, there could be an energy around not feeling as connected to your party friends, or maybe you work in a setting where there's a lot of alcohol there. Like you have to go to a lot of happy hours and networking events, and you might feel a little bit more socially awkward not having that part to your routine. And some of you could be letting go of this for health reasons. Some of you could be letting go of this because you just recognize it's not really leading you towards where it is that you want to go. But that's the first theme that I see. Now, some of you at this time could be making certain decisions of things that you are letting go of because of your children, or in order to prepare for having children, even potentially. If you do have children, there could be a need at this time to let go of criticizing them or nagging them, something like this. It's such a fine line, right? Because of course you're there as a guide. You are there to provide advice and support and leadership. But there could be an energy, if you've been like nagging your children around, you need to do this and you need to do this. Some lessons are theirs to learn. And I know as a parent, there is a desire to want to ensure that they never have to go through anything painful or anything challenging within their experience. You try to protect them from having to feel anything uncomfortable, right? Because you love them. But some lessons are our own to figure out. And with North Node Pisces, honoring that your children are on their own spiritual journey, you cannot do their push-ups for them. And some lessons truly are theirs to figure out. And even for some of you, you could be letting go of any tendency that you have to criticize your children. Maybe you were criticized when you were younger, and so that's how you find it natural to express love. And there could be an energy around releasing that, viewing your children through the eyes of the divine, how the divine would view them. And even if you don't have children, the topic of children could be alive at this moment. Some of you could be letting go of a plan to have children. Maybe that's a plan that you had and you recognize it's just not feasible, or I'm seeing that that's not really what I want or really what my path is. You know, the energy of North Node Pisces is about flowing with what is and letting go of what we thought it should be. And sometimes that can lead to certain heartbreaking illuminations around, it just seems like that dream that I had around being an artist, like it feels like that's not coming into fruition, or that dream that I had around having this amount of children, it just seems like that's not my path. And a lot of times when we step into situations so full of our own ideas and our own plans around how we thought that it could be, should be, we don't have any space to drink up how it is. And again, I'm not saying that this is a forever thing. There just could be an energy around recognizing I'm holding myself back because of this timeline that I've constructed. I'm holding myself back from the life that's all around me. I'm so focused on the life that I feel like I was denied or that I didn't get, or the plans that I feel like didn't come into fruition around children or around art or what have you, that I'm not even aware or present to what is at this particular moment, what is flowing into my experience at this particular moment. And again, some of you could be letting go of something in order to prepare for having children. Maybe there's some sort of health theme that's coming up around a ritual that you're letting go of in order to help your health for your children in some regard could be coming up. There's also a theme around your inner child at this time. And with the full moon on the South Node, there feels to be an aha that you may be reaching around this time with recognizing a certain situation within your life and being able to follow the threads of what it leads back to. Because oftentimes it can feel like our emotions are random, or the memories that surface are random. It could just feel like random firings within our brain where we're like, why is this coming up? Or why did this trigger me so badly? And typically in this Virgo paradigm, it's around, I'm too busy to like really dive into that. Got to get to the next thing. Got to get to the next thing. But some of you might actually find if you kind of follow the pathways around, okay, I was triggered and then it led me here and then it led me here, you may arrive to a core component of where that might be coming from. And could be around your inner child, around that event triggered me so badly because it reminded me of what I was denied when I was younger, or experiences I feel like I did not get to have when I was younger. And rather than avoiding it and jumping to the next thing, let me take that moment to like love that part of me. You know, South Node does represent the past, but it also could represent past lives. So some of you could even just be witnessing something that's showing up within your real life. It doesn't make sense within real life, right? There is an energy around needing to step out of reality every so often around, okay, logically, I just saw a mouse. Why am I feeling so triggered and upset just because I saw a mouse? Because there's deeper layers. That mouse made you feel afraid, which brought you to the reality of living alone, which brought you to the version of you when you were younger who was terrified of being alone. Like, honoring that a lot of times these things are not random, and we can't go off the reality of it around, oh, I had a meltdown because I saw a mouse. No, there's deeper layers, either from this lifetime or maybe even one prior. Maybe within a past lifetime, there was some sort of situation with mice. You never know. And it's interesting because if you are a Taurus rising, your ruling planet Venus is also retrograde at this time, most likely within your 12th house, which cosigns a lot of these themes. It is a time of reflection. And even just witnessing if these themes come up and you suppress it in gambling or in dating even, there could be an acknowledgement around, let me let go of this need to always be busy, so productive or efficient, so I don't fully allow these subconscious bubblings to come to the surface, and let me allow it to come to the surface. And maybe I'm not drinking it away or gambling away. Maybe I'm just, processing it and allowing myself to take this data onward in order to build a very compassionate path forward towards success. Because when we can really snuggle our inner child and tell them, like, you're safe, sometimes we can feel more empowered towards the hopes and dreams that we are building, like walking hand in hand with our inner child, right? And sometimes when we take that moment to really comfort our inner child, to really process where something comes from, a lot of times that neural pathway, like that synapse, it can like die off a lot of times, like truly, because it was just begging and pleading to be heard. The inner child was like screaming within you, just hear me, I feel scared right now. And sometimes when we allow ourselves to like feel it, we can release it to a certain degree. And for you, there's a lot of focus on the hopes and dreams that you're building. And I don't know about you, but something that motivates me every single day to get up and build my dreams is thinking about my younger self, right? And she deserves to see her dreams realized. And yours does as well, right? So that could be a focus at this time. Some of you are letting go of dating. You're just not in the season of life where you're wanting to prioritize that. You could feel like you're being too picky. You could feel like other people are being too picky. You could feel like you're logicizing it, trying to analyze it, trying to make a plan before you even decide if you like the person or not. There just could be an energy of surrender around this lunation, around, my soulmate is going to have to come find me because I'm sick of these dating apps. I'm sick of trying to make a plan around how I'm going to find this person. They've got to find me. They better be my, DoorDash delivery person, because I'm not interested in going out to the clubs and the bars to find them. I don't want to be on the apps. They're going to find me. And the funny thing is, that is how things flow into our life, right? When we kind of release control, and I see some of you are just kind of releasing control of that. Now, if you are in kind of like a talking stage or something like this, I have seen eclipses here where it kind of like closes out a period of being single. Because like 5th house is like the house of courting. I know for me, sometimes when I have 5th house transits, it signals like the end of a dating era. So maybe that's the story for you in some regard. If you are in a significant relationship or partnership, there just could be an energy around letting go of like partying together, or even letting go of the typical date nights and potentially being open to new sorts of date nights, right? As you change, right? Uranus is most likely in your 1st house trining this lunation. So maybe you and your partner used to, drink cocktails and get in the hot tub every Friday night. Maybe you're in a different era. Your idea of fun has shifted, and then your date nights are shifting as well. If the Virgo Lunar Eclipse March 2025 lands within the 6th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You might be an Aries rising, you might not be an Aries rising, you may just have 23 degrees Virgo within your 6th house. But either way, around this time, there could be a couple of themes that come up. So let's dive into it. The first being, you may feel a little burnt out around this time, like your day-to-day routines and how it is that you're of service to other individuals. You may feel like you are quite drained and depleted. If you are an Aries rising, your ruling planet Mars pretty much just stationed direct. So you could be feeling at this time like drained and depleted, and like you're never going to get on top of your to-do list, and you're never never going to get enough done and you're never going to be able to move forward. You could feel like a hamster on a cage, just like, oh, every single day there's more problems and to-dos, and when am I going to get on top of it? That could be an energy that you're currently feeling or that you feel around the time of this eclipse. There could be an energy around just feeling less inspired or motivated, even potentially around your day-to-day vocation. There could just be an energy around feeling a little disconnected. You know, I spoke about this in the collective forecast, which I deeply recommend listening to. Okay, deeply recommend listening to. I know some people jump straight to their signs forecast, but there's so much more nuance and depth within that general forecast. But when it comes to this Virgo lunar eclipse, there just could be an energy around feeling not properly compensated or valued within your workplace. You could feel like you're working very hard and you're not being recognized for it. You could feel like you're working very hard, but your coworkers are still criticizing you. You could feel like you're working very hard, but you're not getting results at work. You could just be like, what is the point? And it would not be my encouragement to quit your job at this time, to be quite honest with you. Sometimes, again, not putting out there, don't worry, not every person, please do not panic, but sometimes there's something that occurs within the workplace where that decision is made for you. Either there's some sort of restructuring within the workplace, or someone is let go, or something happens where you cannot continue to work there. Sometimes that's a story, not always. It also could be releasing this standard of perfection that you could hold yourself to within work. Maybe you are somebody who's very hypercritical of your work, or you're someone who needs to do things a particular way. This could be adding more to your plate, these tendencies and these habits, and this might be a time that you are letting go of it. Like, realizing my 100% is everybody else's 160%. Like, when I feel like I'm coasting a little bit, or like 80%, that is everybody else's 100%. Like, I don't need to be going hard every single day striving to do everything perfectly. Like, there just could be an acknowledgement around this time around, this is not serving me, and it's just leading me to feel more and more drained and even bitter and resentful. Like, that's what happens when we continue to show up and be of service from a very drained and depleted place. Like, when we're neglecting ourselves, is we show up kind of bitter. You know, we allow that bitterness to affect our relationship with our coworkers, our patients, our clients, our employees. Even is a sixth house arena. And so there could be an energy around recognizing my own standards of perfection are impacting my ability to function day to day, or maybe even my own micromanaging of my employees is impacting my day to day. Maybe my fear of releasing control to my coworkers to allow them to help me with projects is impacting my day to day. What can I let go of here? And sometimes you'll see that there will be a, side job that's let go of, or something like this, in order to create more balance within your world. It could also be letting go of control, like I said, letting go of perfectionism in order to carve more space. Because truthfully, you are craving space. North Node is in the 12th house. You're craving space. You might be craving more solitude. You don't want to be accessible. Maybe if you even work within a service industry of some regard and you're always customer facing or client facing, you might feel like that's draining. That's taking more of your energy from you at this time. So maybe it's even shifting positions in order to be a little bit more behind the scenes in some regard, could be alive, or this could be an acknowledgement around, I need something that's a little bit more private, or where I have a little bit more solitude within my world. Now, I do want to bring up that sixth house does have to deal with essentially the prevention of illness. And with the full moon on the south node, there could be certain things that come up at this time, not all of them pleasant, I need to be honest, around your health. Again, nothing scary, but there just could be a recognition, oh, I'm allergic to gluten, or a recognition, oh, I'm allergic to this, oh, this particular symptom is led to this. Not always pleasant, but it creates the pathway forward to heal. You could also be letting go of certain routines that you recognize are leading to detrimental effects on your health, whether that's physical, sixth house, or even psychological, 12th house, right? Like, maybe you are letting go of certain elements of your working world in the name of your own psychological health, around no job is worth me going insane. Like, there could be an energy around that. And again, you will know if it's time for you to make a shift during an eclipse. It kind of leaves you with no other option, but even if you're not literally quitting your job, there could just be an acknowledgement around, I need to like help my psyche in moving through this. I need to maybe lean on therapy more so. Maybe there's a desire to, you know, get sober at this time. Or I see for a lot of you could be letting go of being a workaholic in some regard, having your days and hours completely structured around getting things done. Like you could just be shifting your definition around what you define as a good day, rather than at the end of the day thinking around, I did this and this and this, thinking, I felt like this, I had this interesting vision within meditation. Like you could be shifting within that regard. And I'll be forthright, a lot of you could feel a little repelled by work in March. You could just be like, ugh, do I have to go there? Like you could just feel like your energy is taking you everywhere else except for there. And definitely honor your energy. Like I knew it was time for me to leave my job, my last 9 to 5, because I literally felt my body just like, don't make me go there. I like literally could not force myself to do it. And again, sometimes it's just a season that we go through. Like I would note the data, but let the eclipse fog settle if you can. If it's not detrimental on your health or on your psyche or anything like that, let the eclipse intensity settle before you make a major decision if you are contemplating stepping away. But you could just find you're more sensitive at this time. You're craving more solitude at this time. You're less motivated to work at this time. Again, there could be a spotlight on health at this time. Just recognizing any sort of overworking could be catching up to you physically. Maybe you're feeling so drained and depleted because you've reached burnout. Like I feel like some of you might feel a little burnt out. And this eclipse could be this energy around no more. Like I need limits, I need boundaries with the opposition to Saturn. I need to give up some shifts. I need to make shifts. I need to add in yoga to my daily routine in order to have more mindfulness. I need to go to therapy. Like enough is enough, right? I just feel like some of you have been running on empty or digging into your reserves. And when you've been digging into your reserves for so long, sometimes when you do have space, you know, you do finally clear space within your life and within your time and within your schedule, it takes time for that to refill itself. So maybe you're coming out of burnout and you're like, I should be back to it. Like for a lot of you, I'm an Aries rising. Why am I so exhausted? And when you've been digging so deep in the reserves and living out a schedule that is fundamentally unsustainable, you dug so deep, it takes time to get into all those reserves. So my encouragement would be patient with yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. Some of you could be letting go of identifying with your work. Some of you could take it very personally if your coworkers correct you for something or call you out in an email string or something like this. Like that might be something that typically gets you fired up. But I see some of you are just like, whatever. It's just a job. Like I see some of you are actually minimizing your job to its proper place within your life around, it's just a job. It's not worth me stressing myself out, because stress is not good for your body, right? And that's kind of an acknowledgement around this time. Maybe it's not even a health theme that comes up. Maybe it's just acknowledging this job is stressful. And stress is not good for the physical vessel. Like there could be just a focus around that when it comes to this lunation, or also, you know, mental health, spiritual health, psychological health. These are all components to health, and there could be a spotlight around something that you need to let go of in order to support your health of mind, body, and soul. And that could be a mentality, that could be, you know, a shift, that could be certain reliance to getting certain approval from certain coworkers. If you found that you've hired on someone and that relationship has gotten stressful, this could be a time that you are contemplating shifts that could be made there. If the Virgo lunar eclipse lands within the 7th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Pisces ascendant. You potentially may not be a Pisces ascendant. You may just have 23 degrees Virgo in the 7th house. Either way, this lunar eclipse is about relationships, connections, and one-to-one. So let's get into this. So firstly, if you are in a relationship, let's start there. As I mentioned, this is an eclipse that's more so around releasing, letting go, letting things fall away or be cleared away in order to have the space to call in new. This does not necessarily mean you are going through a breakup. Not necessarily. Some of you may, and I'll speak to that in a moment. But if you are in a relationship, there could be certain situations that you are feeling fed up about at this particular moment in time. Maybe there's just kind of like nitpicking or bickering alive within your connection, or being kind of critical of one another, like constantly harping on what's wrong or what could be done better, which those are not helpful habits to contribute to a healthy relationship. I know that sometimes being within a relationship, your partner can get under your skin and annoy you and bug you quite a bit, but there could be an energy during this eclipse around recognizing, like, I constantly pick on you or you constantly pick on me. This is erosive for our connection. How can we let go of these particular habits before they impact the relationship itself? And some of you, you might be taking on a lot of the labor as it relates to your partnership, and you might reach a point around being a little fed up at this time. Like, a lot of you are Pisces rising, so you are compassionate, you're empathetic, maybe your partner has been moving through a lot or something like this, and so you've justified, shouldering a majority of the errands or whatever it is. But there could be an acknowledgement on this lunar eclipse around, no, I cannot shoulder 95% of the errands that we have as a partner. That also leads to feelings of resentment festering within myself, and it's not fair. Like, how can we let go of this? I don't want to feel like your servant. I'm your partner. There could be an energy like that alive. Some of you might find that you've been having a lot of worry or anxiety over your partner. Maybe you're worried about a situation that they're going through. Maybe you even have worries around, are they going to leave me? Is something bad going to happen? And I think it's incredibly important, particularly for you, if you are a Pisces rising, to really distinguish the voice of overthinking versus the voice of intuition. Because I know it can be hard to tell the difference, but my encouragement for you would be pay attention to the moments when your intuition is right, when your intuition is proven right. Like you follow a gut instinct and it turns out to be true. Stay very present to yourself. Notice how your body feels. Notice how your mind feels. Notice how your heart feels. Notice how your soul feels. Take a snapshot of that very energetic embedded in that moment when you see that your intuition was proven right. Tuning into the unique tells that your body, mind, and spirit has for you around times that your intuition is right on about something is going to be important, because it can be hard to tell if something's coming from anxiety around, what if my partner leaves me? I need to check their phone, or around, I'm getting a gut instinct, I should check their phone, right? Like, I would really encourage you to really master the language of your intuition, which is a bit of a side note and not necessarily the main focus of this lunation, but felt important to be said because some of you could be recognizing like worry is holding back your connection. And even if your partner is going through something challenging, there could be an energy around recognizing, I'm your partner, but I'm not your mother. Or there could be an energy around, I'm not your partner, but I can't do this for you. Like, and I don't need to shoulder or immerse myself and mesh myself with everything that you're going through. Then it's going to bring both of us down. One of us has to be the anchored one if one of us is going through something. It's natural, especially if you are a Pisces rising, to feel like your partner's sad, so you're sad, but actually it can actually be more helpful if you maintain your vibration and maintain your autonomy outside of the connection in order to give that healing light of inspiration to your partner. And maybe it's an energy around reclaiming some elements of yourself, maybe even setting boundaries around your connection in order to maintain your own vibration, your own world, or even your own responsibilities with the energy of Saturn here. Now, some of you might have recently went through a breakup, or this eclipse could be timed with an epiphany that it's time for one. There could just be an energy around recognizing how much you've put into the relationship, how much work you've put into the relationship. And I know it's so natural to feel like that was a waste of time, but you would not be the person you are today had you not had the experience and gained the wisdom from this connection, or even past connections within your life as well. And I know it's natural for us to kick ourselves in guilt and regret around, why did I give that person a chance? Why did I let that person in? Of course, knowing what you know now, you would go back to the version of you who met this person and be like, run away, or no, no, no. But you didn't know what you know now. And we do take a lot with us. No relationship is truly a waste of time because we learn so much around relationship, around partnership, around ourselves. So release the shoulda, woulda, coulda. Release the plans that you had with this person. Like, that could be a devastation. That could be a grieving around, we had so many plans. I thought our life was going to look like this. I thought this was going to happen. You gotta let it go. You gotta let go of what you thought your life was going to be in order to drink up what it is. And even if the breakup was not recent, there could be an energy around releasing plans around your relationship with the sort of partner that you think that you want on paper. Like, you might be surprised by the next person that you fall in love with. If you let out that cup of all of your expectations or plans around how someone should show up, or even if you are holding on to any baggage from past relationships. Some of you might have certain critical voices in your head still there. Certain ex of yours told you that your arms don't look good in tube tops. And drop the address below, because I'm gonna go pull up on them after I'm done recording. If any of you can relate to that, that is not okay. How dare they talk to you that way? But nevertheless, sometimes things that people say to us or criticism that people give to us, especially an intimate partner, it stays in our brain. Like, every time we go to put on a tube top, we have those words ricocheting within my brain. Let it go. Take this person off the pedestal. They are not the person who decides whether or not your arms look good in tube tops, whether or not you are worthy. They are not the people who decide that. I know sometimes when we are in a relationship, we're so fixated around how do they view me or how do they see me. They're not God. They're not God. They have no power to really judge you. Because even some of you could have been in the wrong around a certain relationship from the past. You could be kicking yourself or coulda, woulda, shoulda, or even guilting yourself around what mistakes you feel like you did within that relationship. Again, only God can judge you, right? Your worth as a human being is not distilled into the sum of your worst mistakes, especially as it relates to other people. If you're keeping yourself in a holding pattern around feeling very guilty for a situation from your past, this could be a time that you release it. So long as you were like genuinely sorry and you make your intentions to make amends and you do what's ever necessary on your side of the street to make things right, you don't need to suffocate yourself to feeling guilty for the rest of your life just because you made a mistake or you were not blameless within a relationship. We all make mistakes within relationships. And I'm seeing some of you are needing to let go of really criticizing yourself around how you handled yourself within a particular connection. You did what you thought you should do with the knowledge that you had at the time. You're a spiritual being having a human experience, right? And I think the invitation with North Node in Pisces in your first house, Saturn in Pisces most likely in your first house, there's really an invitation to step into the divinity and the trueness of your path. Because if you feel like you made a mistake by letting go of someone or not trying harder to fix or save a certain relationship, step into the world that's unfolding before you rather than what has been left behind. That could be something that's coming up around this eclipse. Now, this isn't just about romantic connections. It could also be around business partners. Some of you may find that you are releasing a pattern around shouldering a majority of the burdens or the work within a business partnership. Some of you could even be letting go of a business partnership in order to step into something more on your own. Some of you could be letting go of reliance on certain feedback that you receive from clients within your world, one-to-one connections. And you're really wanting to step into the trueness of who it is that you are. That's really what I want to distill this lunation down to. Sometimes stepping into the trueness of who it is that you are means having to tell people no. Sometimes it means having to let people down. Sometimes it means needing to leave a relationship when the granola bar has been consumed or when it's done. And that'll make sense if you listened to the beginning, which you really should, because there's a lot of great tidbits in there. But there's parts of living your most authentic path that's not easy. Saturn in your first house affirms that it's not easy to carve out the path that is authentic and true to you within your life. That is not always the easy path. And it takes you listening to your own calling, listening to your intuition, and being willing to tell people no, being willing to set limits, being willing to set boundaries. If you do not decide what your story will be, other people will write it for you. And I see a lot of you are reclaiming that and releasing the control that other people have had within your life of writing your story for you. If the lunar eclipse lands within the 8th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be an Aquarius rising. You potentially may just have 23 degrees Virgo located in the 8th house. Either way, this message is for you. So firstly, 8th house is the house of merging. And this shows up in many different ways. It's how we merge with the afterlife, right? It's how we merge souls. It's how we merge bank accounts. So let's start with the money topic, because you have North Node most likely in your 2nd house, South Node in your 8th house. These are money houses, but different ways of getting money. Essentially, second house, where your north node is self-sufficiency. It's around, getting to the bag. It's around putting in the hours, putting in the work to be self-sufficient, to make your money, right? That is your focus right now, amongst other things, Aquarius, amongst other things. But there can be a focus around really wanting to support yourself, really wanting to allow your dollar to stretch, really wanting to invest in what it is that you value, really wanting to build your own self-esteem, so on and so forth. Some of you may find around this eclipse that you are letting go of a stream of support from others. Maybe you've had a parent supporting you, maybe you've had some sort of loan, maybe you've had a spouse supporting you. And it's not that you're necessarily cutting it off, but you could be releasing your attachment to it. Maybe you had a period of your life that you were raising your children and you were, dependent on your spouse's income, and now you're getting to a space where you're like, hang on, I kind of want my own money, right? I kind of want to take my future into my own hands, right? Especially if you are someone who has certain anxieties around, loss or death or things like this. With like Virgo 8th house, there could be an energy around, oh my gosh, what if something happens? I don't want all of my eggs to be in this carton, in this basket. What is the phrase? I don't want to put all my eggs into this basket, essentially. Like you could have a desire at this time around wanting to make your own money. Now, that's not the story for all of you. Some of you could be releasing some sort of loan, like I said, some sort of assistance that you've been receiving. You could be releasing at this time, maybe wanting to build up your savings now that you've paid off debt or something like this. Some of you could have an ending of a certain tax situation that's been unfolding in some regard. And some of you, when we talk about 8th house, like I said, it could be fear a lot of times, fear of endings and fear of transitions. And even with Virgo in the 8th house, you cannot plan for anything and everything. Money doesn't fix everything, but it does give you a sense of freedom, right? Freedom of choices, really. And so some of you could be recognizing that earning your own income, or if you've already been on that journey of earning your own income, saving it, budgeting it, you have Saturn most likely in this second house, it helps relieve some of your fears, right? Or some of your anxieties of some sort. Now, some of you may random message, but some of you may have a bit of hypochondria or a little bit of fear of illness or health, or feeling like something's constantly wrong with you, and that anxiety or that fear of dying, like that could be kind of holding you back. Like really the encouragement with North Node second house, tap into what is real, right? What is tangible, what is in front of you, what is alive right now. Yes, North Node in Pisces is a very spiritual, ethereal sign, absolutely, but you can find you're actually able to step into certain spiritual learnings the more that you are very present within this particular period of your life. Even like saving to buy yourself something with this degree of intention, or even the skills and abilities that you tap into, the self-esteem that you build in the process of earning your own income, there's something that can be helpful for that, at least to take you out of your own head. Because I feel like some of you might be overthinking, you might be looking at the state of the world, a lot of you have Pluto in Aquarius, so you could really feel some of this intensity brewing within your life at this moment. And, there's a million things we could worry about and freak out about, right? A bunch of different freak out about, but at a certain point you have to get to a space where you recognize this is not helpful, this is not productive, this is not a wise usage of my time. I need to shift gears because I'm not even helpful for the issues I'm stressing out about when I'm in anxiety or panic around it. And even if it's not, health-related fear or humanity-related fear, some of you could just be dealing with certain fear of loss, fear of transition, fear of people close to you passing away. And rather than letting that fear control you, allow yourself to be even more present for the connection alive in your world currently. Like, don't let fear siphon from you or poison you around fear of the future, around what if they're not going to be here one day, that you're not enjoying the time that you're with them right now. There is a call around this lunation. Be here now. Do not get so ahead of yourself. Do not worry about the future. The story is continually unfolding right in front of us. If we don't pay attention to it, we're going to miss it, right? And so some of you could be finding around this time that there is an end to some sort of money that's owed, a debt that you have, a debt that somebody else owes you, some sort of alimony, some sort of child support, maybe some sort of payout from a lawsuit. Something like this could be kind of timed with this eclipse. I have to be forthright. The vibe around this eclipse is not too terribly pleasant with the opposition to Saturn, but some of you could be letting go of something that has been causing you a lot of anxiety. Like even if you don't get the split that you wanted as it relates to alimony or spousal support or something like that, it could be healing to just have that off your plate, or just like have that headache relieved around, at least I don't have to think about it any longer. At least I can like move forward, right? There could be something like that alive at this present moment. And what I also want to bring forward is not all burdens are yours to carry. You know, I brought up debt as in financial debt, which could be a theme around this eclipse, but it's also where it is that we feel indebted to others. And some of you are worrying about things that are not yours to worry about, or you are taking on burdens or tasks or responsibilities that are not yours to take on. You are indebted to other people, and it's not necessarily your job to be indebted towards everyone. It really doesn't do anyone any good if you try to do their push-ups for them, is really the nudge when it comes to South Node Virgo, because some people's lessons are theirs to learn. Like with North Node Pisces, sometimes we have to release our grip around trying to control and micromanage and advise and fix for other people, and just acknowledge they're on their own path. They're on their own journey. You know, 8th house is a house that is referenced metaphorically with transformation, which some of you could be in the midst of, especially with Pluto in your sign. And a symbol of transformation is the butterfly. And if we ever see a butterfly struggling to get out of its cocoon, naturally, the part of us that wants to fix and help, and a lot of you are Aquarius rising, you're the humanitarian, you want to run over and help get the butterfly out of the cocoon, because it's hard. It's an arduous process. It's actually very painful for a butterfly to get out of the cocoon, and you could want to help them right then and there, right? Relieve them from that discomfort. But when you do that, you take away that butterfly's ability to fly. The reason the butterfly can fly is because of the strength that they build in their wings from pushing out of that cocoon. If we try to enable people and coddle people, it can feel like we're doing the right thing or helping them out. We're not always. It's empowering that not everything is your responsibility or your job to fix or to improve or to save even. And to even recognize, if you feed someone fish, you feed them for a day. If you teach someone to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. So it also could be this energy around empowering other people around how it is that they can solve their own problems or take things on for themselves, so that you feel less burdened by responsibilities that are not yours to carry, or even expectations that are not yours to carry, plans for your life that other people had that is not yours. There just could be an energy around releasing what is not you and being able to dial into what is you, right? Who it is that you were soulfully here to become with North Node and Pisces. What gives you a sense of self-esteem with the second house. What it is that you value with the energy of second house. That's what's to be prioritized. And this could be an energy around releasing what is not you, or where it is that you are merging into others and taking on things, responsibilities, expectations, worries that were really never yours to carry. If the Virgo lunar eclipse lands within the 9th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may be a Capricorn rising, you may just have 23 degrees Virgo located in the 9th house, but either way, there is a focus around this eclipse, but really around South Node and Virgo altogether, around letting go of how you thought your life was going to be in order to fully step into how it is. With this lunar eclipse landing in the sector of your chart governing belief systems, spirituality, faith, travel, academia, there may be a nudge at this time to release something in attachment to this. So for some of you, maybe you're completing your degree. Maybe for some of you, there is a natural questioning that is occurring at this time being around your religion, around your spirituality, around your belief systems. You could be really questioning the ways that your belief systems made you critical of yourself. There could be a questioning and even a detachment from certain belief systems that you've had. There could be a disinterest in school or higher learning, getting your master's. Something like this could be tied around this eclipse, whether you are really closing a chapter or whether there is just less of an emphasis on this arena of your life. And when it comes to what you're being guided to prioritize at this time with North Node and Pisces within the third house, it's really around witnessing what is around you, the divinity that is around you. Because I feel to an overall level, a lot of you are letting go of these big picture plans of how you thought your life was going to be. Maybe you had certain timelines around, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do this. Or maybe you are someone who finds a sense of meaning around perpetually setting and reaching goals, around as soon as I make VP at my company, then I'll feel like my life has meaning. As soon as I travel here, then I'll feel like my life has meaning. But when we essentially set these future metrics, again, a lot of you are Capricorn risings, you are individuals who are very ambitious, but you are delaying and pushing out faith and meaning, something that could be found right now in your immediate environment. You do not need to keep delaying your happiness and satisfaction to a future timeline, because the goalposts constantly move. And if you constantly wait around, as soon as this happens, then I'll be happy. As soon as this happens, then I'll feel like my life has meaning. You will be in this perpetual state of chasing and wandering and hustling, really, with the energy of Virgo. Now, I see for some of you, it's showing up around releasing attachment to your purpose being this big, grandiose thing. You know, there's a comic strip, and I'm not sure the artist, I apologize, but it's essentially this individual going around questioning, what's my purpose? Lost in their own world, what's my purpose? And they get up and they hold the door open for people and they help individuals with their groceries and they help someone cross the street, the whole time kind of being lost, like, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? But what's my purpose? Sometimes we feel like our purpose has to be this one overarching thing, right? This one divine purpose that we are here to fulfill. But the truth is we have a lot of different purposes. We have a lot of different ways that we impact other people's lives. We have a lot of different ways that we inspire and enlighten and lead and guide and advise, even in very small ways. You know, you might not recognize just how much of an impact you have on people, how much your advice profoundly affects people, how much your wisdom potentially profoundly affects people. So I also see there's this releasing of any sort of wanderlust around feeling like your purpose is out there. For a lot of you, I see that you're finding that purpose and happiness and joy, these are all inside jobs. These are all things that you cultivate and that you create and you conjure for yourself. And with North Node in Pisces in the third house, a lot of you are being open to more conversations, you know, rather than being locked away in libraries or solo traveling or things where you are acquiring wisdom and opening yourself up to new experiences. A lot of you are actually being guided at this time to converse. You know, what's the point of acquiring all this wisdom if we don't share it with other people? As well as know that the mind is both a transmitter and a receiver, right? We communicate, but we also need to listen. I see some of you are releasing a holier than thou mentality if you're someone who typically does not take advice from others, or if you're someone who has a certain attachment to being seen as being very knowledgeable and having your stuff together. I see that some of you are actually embracing your own eternal student around, I might be a wise Capricorn rising for a lot of you, but I am a student of the cosmos. You know, I'm a student of the universe. I'm a student in life school. We all are. And so it's taking yourself off a pedestal if you feel like you're holding yourself up to a standard to be perfect. And that will resonate the most if you are some sort of spiritual leader, if you are some sort of teacher, if you are some sort of professor. A lot of times we teach what it is that we most need to learn. And this transit overall is asking, how are you learning? And knowing sometimes your students teach you. Do not go like la 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 if someone's wanting to share you feedback. Like, you never know where that wisdom that you're seeking is in these very small interactions or conversations. And some of you could even be sharing messages. You could be on social media, podcasting, writing on topics that are very big picture, but breaking it down in a way that's more understandable. A lot of you could be focused on sales and word of mouth marketing and wanting to deepen your connection to your neighborhood, to your siblings, to your extended family members. Third house extends far and wide. But I would say overall around this eclipse, there could be a letting go of you feeling that your purpose is out there, a letting go of feeling like happiness and fulfillment is waiting for you as soon as you graduate, as soon as you accomplish this goal, as soon as you accomplish this class. Again, it's not that you shouldn't desire these things, but just know happiness and fulfillment needs to be with you on that ladder as you climb towards success. It's not waiting at the top. Like some of you are just recognizing, I thought I was meant to be happy. I got the degree, I got the job. This is where I was meant to find meaning. This is where I was meant to be happy. Like now what? And sometimes when we're so lost in our own head around what's the purpose, what's the meaning of life, we forget to be aware and awake to our own backyard and the small interactions that we have and the bits of information that we share and the ways that we can inspire other people, even in very ordinary interactions. That is your focus at this time. And knowing that some of you might be going through a little bit of humbling at this time around, recognizing you are but a student in life school, and that takes being teachable, right? That takes being open. That takes being willing to admit that you do have flaws. We all do. And I don't know if this has been put on you or if it's something you felt like you had to project. I feel like a lot of you feel like you've always needed to come across like you know all the answers and that you know everything that there is to know, but that blocks you from actually further learning, right? When we allow ourselves to admit, oh, that's not a topic I'm necessarily well versed on, or, oh, I would actually love your feedback on this particular problem that I'm experiencing with my life, you get that insight. You get essentially ways that even the universe could be wanting to reach you and talk to you. Sometimes we could be like la 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 and refusing to, ask for advice or be open to learn something new because we hold ourselves in this standard, impossible standard, right? That we need to know it all at any moment in time. You could feel like not knowing it all or not being curious or not being open to other people's insights makes you weak, and it doesn't make you weak. It makes you in this experience of being a human being. Allow that. If the Virgo lunar eclipse lands within the 10th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Sagittarius rising. You may just have 23 degrees Virgo located in the 10th house. But either way, there is an energy at this time around potentially releasing either a career path or a certain attachment to a career path. Let's get into this because I know your wheels are turning and you're like, Haley, Comet, I don't like this combination of having a full moon on the south node in my 10th house. I am not saying that you are going to lose your job or anything like that, but I do feel some of you are releasing a notion that's been ingrained into you that your worth as a human being is around how much you do, or how much you serve others, or whether or not you are good at your job. Like that could be something that you're recognizing. That doesn't give me a sense of fulfillment within this world. I'm craving something deeper, really, with North Node Pisces. You could feel like your current career path, you're doing a lot of busy work. You're busy, busy, busy. You're doing all of these small tasks. You're helping people with their projects or with their health for some of you. You're helping other individuals for a lot of you. And that is beautiful. It's beautiful to serve and to help. And I talked about in the overall collective forecast that I would recommend listening to how there can be kind of a recalibration around how it is that we serve and show up for others if we are feeling any sort of compassion burnout. Like that could be showing up for some of you around feeling like you do a lot of labor, you work very hard, and a lot of it is thankless, or people take you for granted or something like this. There can be a focus on that at this time. And I'm not saying all of you are quitting your jobs and revolting against it, but there could be an energy around, why do I take it so personally, right? When people don't validate how hard I work, or when I don't get the approval that I'm seeking or the thanks that I'm seeking. Again, you're worthy of receiving all of that plus so much more. But when we find our sense of self in our work, like my love, we are on a planet in the middle of space. Like North Node Pisces is like, bring things back to proper perspective. You did not come here to do SEO for a company. Maybe some of you did, but it's like, a lot of times when we have work issues or work problems or we get criticism on a certain work situation, we feel like it's the end of the world. Sometimes it's important to be out in nature, spend time with your family, with North Node, Fourth House. Remember the things that actually matter and the things that don't matter. Because in the grand scheme of things, I promise you, you will not think about that mistake that you made at your SEO job. And again, I want to be so clear. We have many different purposes. And for a lot of people, they might find their purpose or develop certain leadership abilities as they do show up for, an SEO company, right? I'm not diminishing that. But what I'm saying is you could be releasing an attitude of making mountains out of molehills, right? Making issues, work mistakes, work squabbles, things like this, bigger than what their proper size is. Like a lot of you are Sagittarius rising. Like you are here to feel free to travel into new directions, to remember that there's a big wide world out there. It's not so serious, right? It's not so serious. I know it sucks to make work mistakes, or for some of you, it could just be dealing with a frustrating work situation. I know that does not feel good, but come back to soul. Come back to self. Come back to whatever makes you connected to the universe altogether around. In the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. I know it feels that way, but it's not that big of a deal. And for some of you, there can be an energy around a very critical father. There can be an energy around a very critical boss, a very critical authority figure that you could be seeing where it is that you could detach from it. Like you could be uninterested in taking criticism from someone that you would not take advice from, is really the energy here. Like you could be hearing your boss talk and looking at how it is that they live their life and being like, yeah, I don't want your life. I don't want your life. Like I'll take the constructive criticism around how I could do my job better, but I don't need to feel less than because I'm not exactly like you, because I don't want to be like you. Same goes with a father or an authority figure within your life. If you are self-employed, this could also be essentially the people that you reach within your business, your reputation. You might log on to Yelp and see that someone left a little bit of a critical review on your business. And there, of course, as a business owner, you want to take in the insights around how you could be showing up better. But it's also knowing people are always going to say something. Like you won't be the esthetician for everybody. You won't be the nail artist for everybody. Like you are not for everybody. You could be a fitness instructor and maybe someone left a review on ClassPass that they hated the music that you played. Maybe get another review that they loved the music that you played. You could be like, well, what music should I play? You need to play what is true to you. You need to be what is true to you. Like that's what it all comes down to. And there feels to be something around dimming out the noise around which voices you should listen to, whose opinions you respect, and what really matters to the business that you run or the ways that you are of service, because feedback is a good thing. But it's important to amplify those voices that you really want to listen to, whose opinions you really respect, whose feedback is very valid, while dimming out the noise of some individuals who might be complaining about you or complaining about certain elements of what it is that you do or who it is that you are, just to hear themselves talk. Just to hear themselves talk, just to feel a little powerful and in control. By critiquing you, there could be an energy like this around this eclipse. Now, some of you can be releasing a career path potentially. Some of you could be releasing a job. Maybe you had a certain plan around how you thought your corporate life was going to go, how you thought career was going to go. And that's just not how the cookie crumbled. Maybe there's certain family matters that are taking you away. Maybe there's a certain desire to ground down into home matters. Maybe some of you are getting into real estate instead. Again, we got to let go of what we thought our life was going to be in order to allow in what it organically is. If the Virgo lunar eclipse lands within the 11th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may be a Scorpio rising, you may not be a Scorpio rising, you may just have 23 degrees Virgo in the 11th house. But either way, this eclipse is asking for a surrender of your future plans. And I'm not saying that you need to throw caution to the wind and just live for today with no regard to tomorrow. But what I am saying is that some of you are releasing this mentality around my life will start when blank. My life will start when this. My life will start when this. My life will start when I get married. My life will start when I start this new career path. Like my life will start. Your life has started, my love. You are here. You are here. And if you keep delaying joy or happiness or fulfillment for the next stage of your life, the goalposts will keep moving. It'll never be enough, right? It'll never be enough. Virgo energy, there's always another problem to be solved. There's always another arena of your life that you could be dialed into more so. I also see a lot of you are releasing comparison at this time. You've been looking at the people around you, your colleagues, how it is that their careers are going. You might be even looking at your peers, people around you, their social media feeds, and comparing your real life, your messy real life, to their aesthetic, curated photo dumps on IG. That's not real life. You can't compare your mess to the sleek and shine of IG. Okay? And it's important not to compare your path to other people. We all are on different paths. We all came to learn about different arenas of life. We're all in a different spiritual journey. Your work is to allow your own journey to unfold and not look left and look right around other people's journey. And if you're keeping up, and if you're as hot as this person, or if you're as successful as this person, my love, you are on your own journey. You are your biggest competition. Other people don't have your talents. They don't have your abilities. They don't have your creativity. Don't build a life that's not yours because you're trying to impress people that you don't even like. Get into this experience. Why were you designed the way that you are? Why do you have the passions that you do? Those are not random. Those things that light you up, those things that make you stay up late at night, reading all about it, researching all about it, those beats that you make, those poems that you read, the interior design layouts that you conjure, those are not random. That is the divine speaking to you. Those moments of flow and creativity and inspiration. Do not build a life that is not yours when you have everything that you need, the blueprint to your own success and actualization, embedded within yourself and embedded within your passions. And that's not to say it will be easy, but the invitation really with North Node and Pisces is around, what are you passionate about? What lights you up? This is how the universe talks to you. If you feel like you can't listen to your intuition, it talks to you in so many different ways. And a lot of you are Scorpio rising, so you're very intuitive yourself. But a big one is what lights a fire within you, what excites you, what invigorates you. This is how spirit talks to you. And this could be through your creative expression. It could also be around what you like, around your hobbies. You know, there is an invitation now to invite in more play and enjoyment within your day-to-day. You're being asked at this time to let go of an attachment to a future in order to embrace the beauty of what your life looks like now. A lot of you could be in this grass is greener mentality, not enjoying the beauty in this present moment and not having fun within the stage of your life. You could be like, as soon as I graduate, I'll have more fun. Or as soon as this happens, I'll have more fun. Fun happens now. It can actually make reaching our goals more sustainable when we take time to smell the flowers, to have a little fun as we do so. And so that feels to be a focus here. I do see that some of you could be releasing a certain friend from your world, even if you're not literally cutting someone out of your friend group. There could be an energy around potentially distancing or detaching yourself from them a bit, or at least detaching from what it is that they have to say about you. Because I see for some of you, you may have a friend or a colleague or even a friend group who gives you some backhanded compliments where you're not sure, are we friends or are we enemies? Do you like me or do you hate me? Are we friends or are you in secret competition with me? Was that a genuine compliment or are you trying to insult me? Is that a criticism? Like, there could be some weird dynamics alive within a friendship or within a relationship with one of your colleagues that makes you feel a little uneasy. Maybe even your intuition is kind of telling you, something feels a little weird here. Something feels a little off. And if you have a friend within your life where you just feel like nothing's ever good enough for them, they're always critiquing you, they're always giving you backhanded compliments, and you allow that to upset you and impact you, there's an invitation with this Virgo lunar eclipse to minimize that person to their proper size. This is not a God in your life who has the power to dictate whether or not you are worthy or whether or not you are good enough. This is just a person. This is just a person. And sometimes when we're in these ambivalent or these up-down or just kind of weird connections, sometimes we make their opinion of us bigger than it really ought to be. And I see some of you could just be really seeing the behavior for what it is around, oh, you're really insecure or you're threatened by me in some regard. And it's not saying you have to literally cut this person out of your life. Some of you may. Some of you may. but you could just be kind of minimizing the impact that they have on you, maybe putting a little bit of distance. Maybe if this is just like somebody on social media, you could mute their posts, or there might be just an energy where you're just like, I need some breathing room from this. I need like a palate cleanser from this friendship. Like some of you might have like a no contact period or just a cooling off period, which sometimes is a truth serum when you have some distance from a situation. And again, you can let people go with love and light, right? From a North Node Pisces perspective around, I forgive you, right? I just release attachment to caring what you have to say about me, right? We can take a more evolved perspective on it, but I see that some of you might be creating some distance because you realize that maybe it was leading to some self-criticism. But I see that some of you could be putting in some intentional distance from a friend within your world because you just recognize that it's leading to you feeling ambivalent about yourself or you feeling more critical about yourself. And you don't need friends within your orbit who make you feel weird about yourself. Like, it's not that we're perfect, flawless beings, but your friends should be people who inspire you and uplift you. Some of you could be dealing with a copycat, honestly. There's an energy around someone could be copying you because with the opposition to Saturn, most likely in the 5th house, you could feel like your creativity is being tested at this time. Like, you could just clock it in terms of your colleagues or other people in your industry on social media. You're like, ooh, that's a bit very similar to the bit that I just had in my recent stand-up show. Or, ooh, that's a wallpaper pattern that's really familiar to the one that I just designed. Like, there might be just certain things that it's not an exact replica, but it just feels like they're kind of like reheating your nachos, so to speak. And that might be frustrating. Like, as a creative, that could be very frustrating, and you might be advised at this time to exercise a little bit of restraint with the energy of Saturn in the 5th house, to know that your art, your creativity, your uniqueness speaks for itself. Even if you don't have your own business, even if you're not online, just even your style could attract biters. Like, you know, you're really being authentic and doing you when you do find people who are inspired by you. You know, they say that imitation is the highest form of flattery. It doesn't make it any less annoying, but some of you could be dealing with themes like that at this time. Some of you could even be letting go of a group dynamic, maybe like a group writing class in order to write on your own, letting go of a band that you perform with in order to play music on your own. Again, not like in a lonely way, but just with North Node Pisces, you might find like you're in more flow, being able to express yourself without feeling like you have to mold it to other people's expectations. Or it could just show up, if you are a creative, you're letting go of some of the critique from your audience or from your followers. Again, critique is important, feedback is important, but there could be an energy that you recognize around this eclipse that the feedback is in your head. Like, when you sit down at the piano, you're thinking about how the last recital, how you got that critique that your solo was too long. And now you're planning for your next solo and you're like, oh, but I don't want to make it too long. Voices in your head that are essentially impeding your progress as a creative. In whichever field that you're in, there could be this energy around either I want to explore this new bold idea, but what will people say? Or I want to write this new solo, but I don't want to make it too long. Like, to be a creative means pushing some boundaries sometimes in order to follow the flow of divine inspiration. If the lunar eclipse in Virgo will land in the 12th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You could be a Libra rising, you could not be a Libra rising. You could just have 23 degrees Virgo in your 12th house. But either way, this is what the eclipse on March 13th, 14th, 2025 has in store for you. So firstly, when we talk about the 12th house, it is the house of solitude. And some of you might feel like you've been a little removed from your own experience, like a little bit more checked out. And this could be because you have a lot on your plate. You've got Saturn in the 6th house. Your work schedule could be very busy. You're having to be very disciplined about your time and where it's going. And some of you could feel like you've been in a zone where your life is just around your routines and getting everything done and then checking out, right? Either being like hustle, 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 and then like checking out, and even wanting to like zone out or numb out in your time off in order to regain some sort of balance within your world. You are a Libra rising after all, at least most of you. You could be craving balance, but feeling like you're either fully going, whether you're dialing at work, whether you're trying to meet certain health goals. You could be like, go, go, go. And then when you have a break or a pause, you stop and you check out from reality. And that could be around, oversleeping, not wanting to leave the house outside of like work and responsibilities. That could be around even drinking or using any sort of substance in order to numb or check out from your own mind. There just feels to be extremes that you could be going through at this particular moment in time. And the ask is balance, right? The ask is truly balance. And to create a life that you don't have to escape from, that you feel like you don't have to numb out at the end of the day. Like some of you could just be witnessing that your work schedule feels so busy that when you finally get some time to yourself, you just want to drink in order to turn your mind off, or even turn to things that you know are not truly good for you in order to feel like you have some sort of balance within your world. And for some of you, work itself could be an addiction. Addiction feels like a dramatic word, but it could be something where you are in this workaholic loop around never feeling like you are doing enough, never feeling like it's good enough, being very perfectionistic, tearing out your hair over small details that other people wouldn't notice, micromanaging to your own detriment, even being the maker of your own self-undoing within your work, like overworking yourself. Work can also be something that we use to numb out and to escape. And so if you're lacking balance within your world and you feel like you are constantly chasing that high of being productive, of beating your metrics, of beating your targets, again, these are things that are lauded within society, but just because it's lauded within society does not mean it's healthy. It's not necessarily an ingredient that makes a happy or healthy life. And I just feel like, especially with this lunation opposing Saturn and trining Uranus, there could be an energy around looking at your schedule and wondering, could there be a different way? Could there be a different way? Like some of you could be just witnessing the effects of stress on your physical vessel and wondering, rather than taking these particular pills in order to help the stress, is there a way to take down my stress levels? Like some of you could be just looking for maybe more healthy measures or more holistic measures in order to solve problems in a more healthy way. Like for some of you, if you get stress headaches, right, you could find that every time you get a stress headache, you want to, drink the pain away, or maybe you take a pill or something like this. And there's an ask at this time, okay, rather than like numbing it away, which again, take the medication that you need to, want to, consult your doctor, all of this. But what I'm saying is if you find yourself constantly reaching for those pills or wanting to drink in order to numb or to self-soothe from the pain, there could be an invitation around this lunation around, what if I address the root and not just the symptoms? Like what's the root? Oh, I'm stressed out and that's why I'm getting headaches. And so what can I do to live a lifestyle that's less stressful so I'm not having to constantly have this remedy? Does that make sense? I want you to apply that in where in your life you're feeling that within your lifestyle. Maybe it's even around your sleep schedule, right? Where you stay up too late and then the next day you can't get out of bed because you stayed up too late the night prior and the cycle just repeats. Like I see that some of you are wanting to get off the ride in terms of the cycle around what's going to fix the issue once and for all so that I live a more sustainable, balanced lifestyle. Some of you may find at this time that there is a certain health wake-up call happening during this time. Again, nothing scary, but some of you could just recognize how there's certain issues that you haven't wanted to face. You've just been pushing them into the back of your mind, not wanting to deal with them. And this lunation may mark a time around, okay, I need to get a diagnosis of this. I need to get an opinion on this. And I know it can feel scary, but please know that receiving that information, being proactive around your health can be incredibly helpful. Like nothing does well festering in the dark. And again, I'm not saying this if you are somebody who deals with a lot of health anxiety where you're always worried that something's wrong. I'm saying legitimately for individuals who have been essentially treating symptoms and not addressing the root cause, or if you know that something's wrong but you haven't wanted to make the lifestyle shift in order to accommodate it, or dial in your diet in order to adjust around your allergies. Like this lunation very well may be kind of the wake-up call that this is leading to your own self-undoing. This is leading to your own self-sabotage. Your escapism, your procrastination is leading to your own self-undoing. There's a need to be proactive at this time, like schedule your dentist appointments if you've been putting it off, schedule blood work if you've been checking it off, like be proactive around your schedule. And I know a lot of these things can feel scary, but there's an invitation to do it. to solve it. And sixth house, where North Node is and Saturn is, it governs employment, our day-to-day responsibilities and work. And some of you might have certain demons that you're battling that are impacting your performance at work. It could even be impacting you getting a job of some sort. So some of you could be releasing a habit around, I need to stop sleeping the day away. I need to stop doing certain things in order to cope. I need to stop procrastinating on this particular project. Some of you are letting go of that in order to step into being productive, being efficient, but most importantly, building a lifestyle that's good for all of you, right? Not just good for your wallet, because sixth house is around employment and, you know, we gotta work, certainly, but also good for your soul with the energy of North Node Pisces, good for your body, right? Because a lot of you might already be in a job, but you're finding that your body is having a harder and harder time keeping up. And sometimes we feel like, especially with Virgo in the 12th house, you could beat yourself up around, gosh, you're so lazy, you're not doing enough, but maybe there's just legitimately too much on your schedule at this time. And maybe the ask with this lunar eclipse is to release being so judgmental of yourself, being so critical of yourself, being willing to ask for help from your coworkers, being willing to even hire someone with North Node in the sixth house. I see some of you are letting go of an energy that you need to do it all by yourself. With Virgo in the 12th house, if you run your own business or you do things behind the scenes, like your insistence to feeling like you need to do it all on your own or know it all could be leading to your own undoing, leading to your own demise. Not to be dramatic, but stress is hard on the body. Overworking is hard on the body. Eventually, those ramifications do catch up. And I say that not in a scary way, but for you to just recognize, like, the universe could be wanting to lighten your load as it relates to your daily rituals and routines. And so this is a time to let go of any sort of attachment that you need to do it all yourself and you need to always be perfect and always know what it is that you're talking about in order to embrace the ways that the universe could be trying to link you to people who could lighten your load or people that you can hire or certain tasks that you can outsource. There could be a nudge around this. So my loves, it's eclipse season, cosmic course correction season, and a lot of times for us to get on the proper course, the course that we are destined to be on, there is a need to say goodbye to the course that we have already driven through, right? And this particular eclipse feels more centered around what we are releasing, the course we are surrendering, the course we are saying goodbye to. And I know that can bring up a mixed bag of emotions as we process what in our lives we are letting go of, whether it's a physical thing, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job, whether it's a version of ourselves, whether it's a mentality. There's definitely a grieving process, and be in that, right? But please know that whatever is being removed from your life around this Virgo lunar eclipse is being done to clear space for your destined new beginning. And of course, we'll be talking more on that when we get into the Aries solar eclipse all sign forecast, which will be on my channel, so look out for that. If this was your first time stepping by my cosmic corner of the internet, thank you so much for joining me. I post all signs forecasts regularly, as well as a weekly horoscope series called Magic Monday. You can check that out below. My Instagram handle is @HaleyCommentAstrology. I would so love to connect with you over there. And until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay cosmic.